We're already recording.
Yeah,
I
okay.
never paused it.
All right, good evening. I'll call to order this Fairfield Plan and Zoning Commission special meeting for January 3rd, 2025. We'll start with our meeting minutes from May 27th, 2025. I have a motion on the item. Let me start with Commissioner Delgado is just walking in, Commissioner Siebert's here, Commissioner Harrison's online. Commissioner Ford's not here. He said he wasn't coming. Commissioner Braun is on her way. I think for minutes we can move forward. So Commissioner Siebert, all three are actually in, aren't they?
I would say so, except Commissioner Collins, if he wasn't able to catch up,
Yeah, okay.
it might be more appropriate to have one of the others vote on the minutes.
Commissioner Collins, are you up to speed?
I am, but probably not as much as the other alternates that were present.
Why don't we stick with, because we need two, so Commissioner Siebert and Delgado will move forward with you guys.
I approve.
We're gonna get to that in a
Oh, okay.
second. Commissioner Braun comes in, then we'll figure out she steps in for. All right, motion, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Harrison moves to approve, I assume.
Yes, yeah.
Commissioner Levy seconds.
Second with one correction.
Yeah, well, I know you had a correction. I probably should have stuck with you. Commissioner Harrison, go.
Oh, okay. No, well, they looked fine to me, but sounds like Commissioner Levy had some edits to make, so I will defer to him.
Yeah, on 430, 452 Stilson, the vote should have been 5-1,
Ah,
6-1.
I should have caught that since I was a dissenting vote.
With Commissioner Braun not abstaining, but recusing herself. So Commissioner Harrison, are you amenable to that amendment?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for catching that.
I assume you're okay with it. So motion's amended, not edit. Any other comments or questions? Let me put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Here's two audio and 5 hands, so it passes unanimously. Next item is 785 Oldfield Road, 8-24 lot split application of the town of Fairfield for an open space land donation by the Marlon V. Brown Living Trust to the town of Fairfield, shown on survey map SB1 by the town of Fairfield Department of Public Works dated May 12th, 2025, residence A zone. Ms. Harrigan? Anything to?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we do have Tim Bishop, the Conservation Director, who submitted a memo for the record. If he wants to speak to acquisition of the parcel, I'll go ahead and share the map, if that is amenable to Mr. Bishop.
Mr. Bishop, is that okay?
That'd be great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. I tried to keep my memo that way, and I'll speak the same. This parcel is on the south side of Oldfield Road. Currently measures 2.06 acres. Has always been tidal marsh, both high and low marsh. Twice a day, at least inundated for the most part. If acceptable, this would become an addition of 1.69 acres to our existing open space, which measures over 220 acres. This all came about with identifying the parcel and its adjacent parcels that we currently own as part of this open space system. And I raised the question of how come we don't own the rest of this? I worked with your department staff to look at what was possible before I approached the current owner and see if they were willing and open to work with us to create a lot split that worked for them while providing them with the benefit of some tax relief of not owning acreage that they're paying taxes on that they can't use, and would be better served and protected by the town or another conservation commission's jurisdiction. He loved the idea, so working with Emmeline and your staff and the town attorney and engineering completed the survey. And here we are with proposal to split, leaving the existing structures and functional portion of the lot as conforming for residents and I believe a business, and the rest of the tidal marsh area would be consumed by our existing open space. That's really how it came about and where we're at. So I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Bishop? Pretty straightforward, I think.
Oh,
So is it-
I had a question.
go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I couldn't tell, and thank you for being here. I couldn't tell on the map. How close is this to Ruane Street or Welch Terrace?
This is on the south side. I don't have a
Okay.
larger map. As far as location, it's just really just focused on the lot.
No problem. I was just curious because I actually live on Welch Terrace off Ruane Street in this vicinity. So and there's a lot of open space and salt marshes in our neighborhood. So I just wanted to understand that. And
Yeah, the Welch Terrace,
Very good.
this would be south of that. So
Okay.
west of the old field bridge, where the two open spaces are hydraulically connected through the water course.
okay, so it's not the property that I was
This
thinking
is
of.
closest to,
Okay.
no, this is closest to Enos Lane.
Yep. Okay. Ennis. Yep. Got it.
Ennis, yeah.
Whatever. Enos Ennis. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Uh,
also just want to add that I think it's a good time. I put in my memo, but I'll just explain it briefly. I think since current ownership is willing to work with us on this donation, for the last I don't know 50 or more years, the town hasn't acquired this, while they've acquired other parcels in this area to total 220 acres on the south side, and then another 30 plus where Commissioner Harrison was describing on the north side. I think it's a great opportunity for the town to acquire it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one more question.
Go ahead.
I guess what's the proximity to the Dr. Rice conservation area? Is it?
It is
adjacent?
part of that
It is
that
part
open
of it.
space.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We're looking for a motion to, or a recommendation to approve.
It's a recommendation or positive 8-24 referral to the Board of Selectmen.
Commissioner Braun, you're just coming in. Can the alternatives continue to sit?
I can make the recommendation.
I was gonna ask because you weren't here the whole time. Can the alternates continue to sit for you?
No, I'd like to vote on this. I've read up on it.
Fair enough. Who sits? Who did she come in for then?
I think probably Siebert, because I think Delgado, Siebert had voted more recently. Although, sorry, probably should be Collins for this one. Sorry.
Commissioner Collins, you there? You're sitting on this.
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Braun makes a positive recommendation. Is there a second? Commissioner Levy seconds. Commissioner Braun.
Appreciate Director Bishop's comments, and I read the material, and we have about 40 years of restoring our tidal wetlands and our marshes from when they were destroyed back in the 70s. So any bit we can add is much appreciated. It's absolutely essential that we keep expanding it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Levy.
Yeah, I agree that acquiring it and recommending that to the Board of Selectmen is a real positive that we should endorse.
Anything else? Commissioner Harrison, can you still hear us okay?
I can. Yep.
Okay, I just saw something prompt, so, okay. Can we put this to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Next item is old business 345 Old Dam Road, special permit and coastal site plan application of K and J Partnership pertaining to a new single-family residence with rooftop deck within 100 feet of a coastal resource
Ooh.
district.
Sorry,
Okay,
my bad.
Remind the room.
Ms. Harrigan.
Okay. Okay, the 10,756 square foot subject site located on the paper road of Old Dam Road, maintained by the town of Fairfield, is located within the Beach District. After netting out road area and tidal marshland, the net site area is 4,141 square feet. The site is located on Pine Creek with construction proposed within 100 feet of the tidal resource, which requires coastal site plan review, as well as being located in the FEMA limit of moderate wave action special flood hazard area, AE 13 and 12. As noted in comments from Connecticut's National Flood Insurance Program Coordinator at DEEP, this requires that the house meet the construction requirements for a wave velocity zone, where the house needs to be designed with all structural elements meeting the higher flood height plus Fairfield's 1 foot freeboard or elevation 14 to the underside of any structural joists. There is a pre-existing boat ramp and dock located at the berm located on Pine Creek. The applicant has demolished both the existing garage and the house and proposes a new FEMA compliant structure with parking below. The proposed single-family house meets the 2-story with attic level under 7 feet limit of the BD zone, as the first unoccupiable parking level can be used only for parking, non-essential storage, and access to the elevated level above per FEMA requirements. Per Fairfield zoning requirements, we do not count this level as a story if the exterior walls are predominantly open work. The revised plans conform with an open horizontal slatwork treatment between the structural columns that is commonly used in the beach area. It's consistent with our requirements and can be observed, and this treatment can be observed at other houses in the immediate neighborhood. The public hearing for this application is triggered by the request for the rooftop deck that is located above the roof line and the attic level floor. The applicants have also revised their proposed plan for the stormwater detention system to be located out of the town's Pine Creek dike easement based on comments from the engineering department, and that system is now located on the street side of the project. The DEP coastal planning staff has expressed concerns about the increased size of the structure, but recognize that there is a reduction in the impervious coverage with the removal of the garage and reduction in associated parking pavement area. The DEP in their referrals has reiterated concern about future sea level rise impacts where there is a significant expansion of properties or an increase in the number of people in higher risk areas, but equally recognizes the need for additional housing. It should be noted that all construction activity is located 40 feet from Pine Creek, and a silt fence is also provided adjacent to the construction staging area on the site of the former garage to protect the adjacent tidal marsh resources on the other side of Old Dam Road. Public comment was received by 2 adjacent neighbors who expressed concern with the increase in height for the rooftop deck area, but support the application for a new house at this property. The applicant provided evidence of other rooftop decks that have been approved in the BD zone in the surrounding area. It should be noted that DEP recommends a condition of approval for soil erosion and sedimentation controls to be installed prior to the start and maintained during the entirety of the construction project. The considerations for the special permit are found in section 25(7.7). Is the development shown on the site in architectural plans of such character as to harmonize with the neighborhood, to accomplish a transition in character between areas of unlike character, to protect property values in the neighborhood, to preserve and enhance the appearance and beauty of the community, and to avoid undue traffic congestion.
Thank you. May I have a motion on the item? Move to approve
The condition.
with the condition from DEP.
Yes, the deep erosion and sedimentation
Thank
control.
you. Motion to approve with that condition. For seconds. Commissioner Levy seconds, Commissioner Randolph.
The project, I move to approve the project subject to deep's erosion and sedimentation control provisions. The impervious surface of the new building is going to reduce the existing impervious surface. The building's 40 feet from Pine Creek, which is sufficient distance. The character of the building is such that it harmonizes with other buildings. We saw a number of examples, similar buildings, and the building was professionally designed and matches many of the other buildings in the neighborhood. And it also, there's no risk of it impairing adjacent property values, and there is no undue traffic congestion, which are the requirements for approval. I do want to address the public comment. There were some concerns by the neighbor on the height, despite the inconsistent drawings, and I would ask that future applications be more diligent in presenting the height, because that's the key provision here. The neighbors were concerned about the height. The building height is 40 feet to the top of railing, but the neighbor who was concerned about the height, their house is 47 feet, which is a taller building. So we can't really object to someone, the neighbor's objection to that. We can't really agree to the neighbor's objection to the height for a building that's shorter than the recently constructed house. So we vote for approval, in my assessment.
Yeah, I will vote for approval, but I will say that it's somewhat reluctantly about the roof deck. I mean, as I read it, the grade level is about 6 feet. The height permitted in this area is 30 feet, and then they get an extra 4 based on the 8 feet that they need to raise to meet the flood regulations. And they do meet based on the average of the midpoint of the roof. They figure 32.9 feet to the midpoint of the roof. But however, this deck, rather than being built into the upper floor, is sort of floating above it at 37 feet. So essentially you have 3 floors within a deck on top of that. And, you know, that's a large structure. However, the applicant has, and the plans provide, that any railing will be basically a glass translucent. So to that extent, it will not provide a significant visual impediment. But in the future, I would, you know, and we have approved 2 others of similar nature. So, I mean, it is consistent. This area is a little closer than the Fairfield Beach area. But when balancing it all out and assuming that they, you know, are according to the plans, where it will be a glass or translucent railing surface, based upon that, I would approve it.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Braun?
My only concern is that somewhere the applicant had mentioned that they were advised to mow the entire back. I don't know how far down it goes, but I don't think they should be just mowing it to get rid of Phragmites. I think they should have a plan working with conservation to enable the tidal wetlands to migrate landward. And I don't know what direction that would be in, but I would suggest that they don't have any mowing or that they work with conservation to figure out the best way to handle the invasives and to enable the tidal wetlands to not be degraded. I don't know. As a
Suggesting-
recommendation.
I was gonna say, I would think a recommendation.
I think condition of approval.
I would think, well, it sounds like more of a recommendation, because I think that advice came from either deep or conservation. I forget which one, so a recommendation would make
So
sense.
getting rid of Phragmites is good, but just mowing it forever is not good either. So I would say, can we make it a condition of approval that they, whatever the area was that the Phragmites are, that they were talking about mowing, they should work with conservation, because conservation is an expert in marsh restoration. And work with them on the ability to enable the tidal wetlands to migrate landward as sea level rises.
We can, if you like. I mean, the recommendation, I would think, just because I'm not sure if conservation technically has jurisdiction here and they may not want to get involved. That would be my only thought. Yeah, that's, maybe the recommendation is that they seek advice from either conservation or deep on how best to handle
I
it.
would like conservation to handle it because they're in charge of our,
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, if they haven't involved themselves yet and they don't have jurisdiction here, you're gonna have a condition that requires them to go to an agency that's not willing to get involved in something outside their jurisdiction. So if you want that, I think that's,
The recommendation that they seek guidance from conservation.
or deep.
No, conservation. Deep does not come to our town. Conservation works with our town on a regular basis. on Restoration of our.
If it's a recommendation, I think that's fine, but I mean, that's gonna depend on whether they want to get involved in something outside their jurisdiction, but. I'll go to Commissioner Harrison, then I'll ask Commissioner Randolph about that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would urge Commissioner Braun to make this a condition of approval. We know that deep doesn't come to our town. We saw that with the hotel, the Circle Inn. They didn't even come to our town. We got letters, but I'd like a local agency to have jurisdiction over this or to have oversight. So I would like, I don't think recommendations really have much teeth. I've not seen any applicant really adhere to any recommendation that we've put forth. So I would like to see this more firmly grounded if that's the intent of Commissioner Braun. If not, then make it a recommendation.
That is my intent. The only thing is, I guess then the condition would be worded that they would seek involvement of conservation. If conservation doesn't want to be involved, then, there's nothing we can do about it. They don't have regulatory jurisdiction, but they have the expertise, and that is one of their programs, marsh restoration. That is what they do. They have we just talked about it on the prior matter. So I think it could be a condition that they seek guidance from conservation on the best way to manage the Phragmites and to enable tidal wetlands to be restored wherever the Phragmites are. I'm not saying all the way up to where the garage is being demolished, but wherever the Phragmites are, that should be done in a planful way, not just mowing forever. That's not going to help anything.
But again, if they don't have jurisdiction, they don't get involved,
And we
then
often have the tree warden give advice on planting trees here and there, even if it's not in the right of way. Just as.
if they're willing to. I mean, again,
Right.
if there's outside of their jurisdiction and they're not gonna get involved, what happens to the condition?
Right. I hear you.
That's why I think a recommendation is the more prudent one outside their jurisdiction, so if they
I
want.
think you're right, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with you.
All right, so the request is a recommendation that the applicant seek advice from conservation with respect to maintaining the area that's where currently the garage is.
Maintaining the area where the Phragmites are that the recommendation have been made to mow, to maintain it in the best way possible for natural tidal wetlands to exist.
Sarah, did you get that?
I'm sure there's a better way of wording it, but yeah.
The area abutting the tidal wetlands.
That's hard.
Let me ask Commissioner Randolph, I think she's asking for a friendly amendment for a recommendation to that effect.
I'm okay with the recommendation.
Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, as a recommendation, I share the concern that the applicant be held to abide by the rulings of a commission, a conservation commission. They're well-intentioned and very knowledgeable, but they don't have authority over tidal wetlands. So based on that, it should be a recommendation that they consult with conservation for advice as to the management and maintenance of the area that abuts the tidal wetlands.
Commissioner, Ms. Harrigan, did you get that? As far as it will be, okay. Further comments or questions, or can we put this to a vote? Motion is to approve with the conditions of from deep for the soil erosion management and that they seek advice from conservation as we described. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's 7, passes unanimously, right? So Peter, you got Peter's vote, Commissioner Collins?
I was thinking that the comparables that, I think it was Attorney Russo, am I correct? Showing comparables of other decks.
Yes.
Yes.
So there was there was some decks that they really didn't kind of compare to what was being built, and also there was a property on 104 College Place. I know that property because I own a rental house right across the street, and their deck is pitted. So you don't see it. It doesn't add like what you appear to be another floor. I thought he was gonna come back with some, comparables that are actually
Well, I think-
comparable to that.
Well, I think he brought back comparables that he thought, and I apologize. I thought we were done with comments. That's why I was asking for a vote from you, but, so I'm sorry to cut you off. Was there anything else comment wise that you had for this application?
No,
Okay. All right, so any change of votes? Let me just do it again. All those in favor of the application with the two conditions, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
no,
Okay, so that's what I thought. So it's, Commissioner Collins is, voting to deny. So 6-1 in the approval. All right. Let's turn to our public comments. Our first item, 1089 Churchill Road. I understand, Ms. Harrigan, the town engineering department is asking for additional time to work with the Connecticut DOT on this.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Great.
This item is requested to be tabled to the next meeting while they get that information from the Connecticut DOT.
Okay, next meeting next week, right? Not
Correct.
next special, okay, anything like that. I don't see the applicant here.
I sent him an email.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay. So with that recommendation, can I please have a motion to table? Chair Levy,
Table.
is there seconds? Chair Braun seconds. Anything further? Said it's request from our town engineer. Put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Saw an aye from Commissioner Harrison. She's on mute, but I think I saw a affirmative. Commissioner Collins?
aye,
Okay, so it passes unanimously. I'll call next item, 441 Post Road zoning compliance and coastal site plan application of 441 Post Road LLC for a 478 unit residential development pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes. While they're setting up, I wanted to take this time just quickly to the commission and to the public about our POCD. I've asked Ms. Harrigan to set a hearing date for the POCD for September 8th or 9th. What is it? 9th. So this is kind of something we've discussed, we have discussed the last few times as far as setting a hearing date. Because of our very weekly schedule and having to get through these, we'll do that in September. We will be sending out an email to the commission to get a second hearing, a second date in June to discuss the last few edits that I think we have that we've discussed previously. I think Commissioner Braun and Harrison, if you haven't already spoken to Ms. Harrigan, that was something that you had to do. We had something else from Harbor Management and maybe one or two others that I'm forgetting. That's going to be done in June. We'll send out emails for the commission to schedule a time for that. It's going to be the second day of the week for us, but we'll figure that out. My plan is.
I'm sorry, you
by
said September 8th? Sorry,
9th.
9th. Okay, sorry.
That's a Thursday. Oh, that's October.
Yeah, so September 9th should be a Tuesday. My plan is by July 1st, wherever we are, July 1st, maybe give a day or two. We're gonna go forward with that draft. Wherever we are, so we give the public sufficient time to review it, so we get to our hearing. And should we have any other edits that we either don't get to or we come to later, that's fine. We'll deal with them at the hearing. But we'll send an email out to the commission to schedule something in June. And as I said, by July 1st, wherever we are at that point is what we're gonna go forward with at the hearing. Obviously, we can make edits at the executive session based on public comments and everything else, but that's the plan that we've discussed in the past, and I just want to give an update as to that. Okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just a quick thing. By the way, I just want to thank you for your leadership throughout all this. We've been meeting weekly for many, many months, and thank you for making things very efficient. I just do want to, I saw some social media fodder that the POCD is being held up, that the TPC is sitting on this document, which couldn't be further from the truth. And I hope no commissioner would be repeating that. We've been meeting every week sometimes twice a week with legal proceedings, executive session. So I'm excited to adopt the POCD and have the public hearing, and it's been a great process. But I just want to be clear that no one is holding this up. And I've seen the social media fodder, I've seen letters to the editor, and I just hope that that does not come from the commission any further.
And I got the sense that the public was seeing that. I mean, I would hope the public sees that we've been meeting weekly since really last September with a few days off last year, and we've been meeting weekly since then. Frankly, if we weren't meeting weekly, we probably would have done it by now. And frankly, nothing will,
Absolutely.
even if we adopted it last year, nothing I don't think would have changed how we're operating this year anyway. So let's not get,
Thank you.
anything briefly fine, but the point of this was just to kind of inform the public where we are, inform the commission where we are, and my plan kind of moving forward. Commissioner Randolph, briefly.
Brief question. Are all the Board of Ed comments, they've all been received, correct? We get 2 sets of letters from them, or will they be incorporated into the next?
Excuse me, can you speak a little louder?
Will the Board of Ed, we got 2 sets of letters from the comments from the Board of Ed. Will those be incorporated?
We can talk about them, I guess,
Will be discussed amongst them.
Excellent. As long as they've been received.
I think they've been, yeah, I've heard they've been received. We'll discuss them.
We'll make
New letters from the Board of Ed?
No, like 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, those,
Yeah, we've seen those.
okay.
I
Sorry,
mean, at least I have. I don't know if others have.
all right.
Sorry.
Sorry. That's okay. Sorry for that, Attorney Blank. We left off, I believe, with you. You still had to finish your initial presentation.
Yeah, so again, yeah, Adam Blank for the applicant. Yeah, we didn't quite finish up with our presentation. I'd like to just hit a couple of housekeeping items and then I'll turn it over to, we've got 2 more presenters and then I'm gonna talk a
I
little.
want to, yeah, go through our housekeeping items because I want to get a sense of where we are with timing tonight because we have another application behind it that I want to get a sense of, and I want the public to get a sense of when that might be heard. Because this is a big application. And I want to get a sense to give them a fair understanding of when, if and when we may start. And I'm hoping it's a when, but it could very well be an if. So, quick question though, do we need to start by Rose Street tonight?
Sorry.
Statutorily. While you're looking at that, go ahead. Housekeeping.
Okay, so for, on my end, a few questions that had come up the last hearing that sort of in my wheelhouse. One was there was a question about whether we had sufficient parking. And as you probably recall, that there was that Garden Homes appellate court case, which is a FairTV case that said 1.2 spaces per unit was adequate. Again, we're 1.4. Anything more than that was sort of merely for convenience on an 8-30G application. So we're above what was the court said was fine in Garden Homes. Additionally, Beacon Square was 1.2 per unit. Again, Umpqua Place was 1.0 per unit. Berkeley Road, 1.275. Black Rock Turnpike at Mortis was 1.3. Woodrow Avenue, 1-to-1. Stilson, 1.3. Post Road, Fairfield Place, 1.25. 1427, 1443 Kings Highway was 1.0. And then the Brunson Road was 1.12. So those are all lower parking ratios than what we're providing here that were acceptable. At last week's hearing, there was a question about the deep diversity database, the natural diversity database. Land Tech has submitted updated memo and findings on that. That is part of the record. It is available for you to review online. Additionally, it was actually during the hearing last week, we got a memo from the engineer from Attorney Green and some of the opposition. Our engineers, Land Tech, have submitted a formal written response to those comments. And our preference is not to dive into that now during our sort of presentation. Let the other Attorney Green's folks talk and the neighbors talk, and then on rebuttal, we'll rebut it if you have questions about Land Tech's responses. And we've got just two further presenters, and then I'm going to talk some more after they're finished on my side. If it helps, is it worth asking how many people here plan to speak?
That's what I'm gonna get to, but let me ask, what's that?
So, Mr. Chair, this item has to be decided by June 21st.
I'm sorry, this 441 Post Road.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we have several items that we have 3 other items that have to open public hearing by the 21st, including 108 Biro.
Okay, so I guess it technically doesn't have to open here. Okay, that's good to know. Mr. Attorney Green, sorry. we're trying to get a sense of opposition time frames here. How, do you have people you're gonna be calling and having present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Same amount of people?
Two.
How long do you think you have? Times 3.
Times 3, probably about a half hour. Not times 3.
Well, I
I have a streamlined presentation.
may hold you to that.
That's fine.
Okay. And open comments to the members of the public. Who's here on 441 Post Road? That's fine. I mean, we'll get through comments on that. As you heard, we have to have a decision in by June 21st, which is a what? Offhand, does anybody know a day wise? Saturday? If we don't have a decision in by then, it is granted statutorily. The applicant has given us as much extension as they can. I'm gonna guess that we are not likely gonna open 108 Biro tonight. But I can't say that at this point in time. It's just based on experience. So I'll give that heads up to the public now for Biro Street, and maybe what we'll do is even if it's 9:30 and somehow we finish, I won't start Biro Street if everybody leaves.
I didn't hear what you just said.
No, I'm sorry. I'm kind of part talking to myself. I'm sorry.
We don't have to complete the public hearing. We just have to open it by the 21st.
Biro Street.
And
yeah.
again, we have
All
3
right.
other applications where.
So
we
what
have
we're
to
gonna do
do-
is this, as I said, based on what I'm hearing, I would be very happily surprised if we finished 441 Post Road and opened Biro Street tonight. Let's figure out where we are at around 8 o'clock, even 8:30, and then I'll have a better sense for the Biro Street, public.
Then you'll let us know.
And then we'll have a better idea of it, yes. I mean, obviously, any member of the public for any application can stay for this one, but I'm assuming that if you're here for Biro Street, that's your concern, so. All right, let's start and see where we are at around 8 o'clock.
Okay, so with that, Neil Olinsky, our traffic engineer, is going to kick it off. Neil?
Good evening. For the record, Neil Olinsky with SLR Consulting. And I worked on the traffic study for this development, as I did with the mixed use site plan traffic study as well. So as you've heard, this development is proposed to be approximately 478 units, multifamily housing. That is to replace the existing Circle Hotel and Circle Diner. All right, next slide. So like we do on pretty much all our traffic studies, one of the first things we want to know is we want to get a sense for how much new traffic any development could be expected to generate. Similarly, that's what we did here. We looked at industry data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers. And what we've estimated is that this development will have a net increase of approximately 32 entering trips, vehicle trips during your typical weekday morning peak hour, and 111 exiting trips during that typical morning peak hour. During your afternoon peak hour, we're estimating around 101 entering trips and 53 exiting trips. Now, these are just the busiest single 1 hour periods during the morning and afternoon. Of course, this development will have more traffic surrounding the peak hours and throughout the day, of course, but not quite as much on an hourly basis as these peak hour estimates. So to keep it concise, I'm going to jump to the next slide. So the bulk of our traffic, a big chunk of our traffic study is looking at traffic flow. We essentially, when it's a development traffic study, we look at conditions with versus without this development in place. So I have for each, in this table is a summary of levels of service, which is traffic flow metric. And for each peak hour period, we have a background column and a combined column. The background column represents conditions without this development, and combined by comparison represents with this development in place. So essentially what it boils down to, our major finding in terms of traffic levels of service similar to the mixed-use development, is the left turn out of the site to Post Road is expected to have delays. As you can see, it has some delays today, but in the future, it's expected to operate at a level of service F. But note that these delays are a combination of things that we have thought about. So a key thing with this to keep in mind is these delays are going to be held on site, not really affect the general public passing by. Additionally, this site will have a secondary driveway to Old Post Road, which will in essence act as a relief valve of sorts, so that folks who don't want to take a left out to Post Road can instead take a right out to Old Post Road and then be on their way. And that driveway at Old Post Road is expected to remain essentially right in, right out due to the triangle median right there. And additionally, the north, what you see in the essentially the third row down is the northbound right turn at the Post Road that we're proposing to have its own lane separate from the left turn lane at Post Road. So that will help things further in terms of traffic flow by not, well, it'll allow folks wanting to take a right out to directly to Post Road to not get held up by folks taking a left out. So that's it. I mean, there's 478 units. This is what it boils down to. I'm going to jump to the next slide. Actually, we could stay here. I got some other points to make. So another key thing to note is that this development, with its net new traffic, is not expected to have any levels of service impacts to the nearby the offsite signalized intersections.
All right.
And that is, again, I'll reiterate, I don't know if this was definitely mentioned at the mixed use development. Our entire traffic study, this development, simply given its size, is going to get fully vetted and reviewed by Connecticut DOT through their OSTA, Office of State Traffic Administration process. So they're going to review everything that we have in our traffic report. And ultimately, they're going to have to approve this development as well, given that Post Road is Route 1 for a portion of it and Route 130. So both state roads, state jurisdictions right there. And lastly, there are some poor peak delays at other points that exist today, and we're not going to gloss over that, mainly at the Post Road circle itself and the Kings Highway approach to Post Road. But the key thing to note there is the state and the town are in the process of redesigning those areas to improve conditions and to address those pre-existing conditions that exist today. So I'm going to jump to the next slide. So what I just talked about was really traffic flow. Okay, here is the latest preliminary design that CONDOT has shared with us, completely reconfiguring the Post Road Circle, as well as realigning Kings Highway sort of on the eastern side of this slide. So it's more of a teed up approach to Post Road. And what is also not shown on this is east of this slide, Post Road is slated to be reconfigured from 4 lanes to 3 lanes to improve safety there as well, as part of a third separate state project. So next slide. So what I just talked about was largely about traffic flow. Another key thing we look at is safety. And one of the key things when we talk about developments in terms of safety is driveway sight lines, essentially motorist visibility. And we are required to look at what are called sight distances based on speeds out there. And what we have found is that the site's driveways in the future will meet Connecticut DOT criteria. ISD stands for intersection site distance. You can see the ISD criteria in that column. And the available site distances from each driveway will exceed the state criteria. So we're going to have good sight lines there, really at every point directly leaving the site. All right, we can go to the next slide. In addition to that, this will have other safety aspects. This development will directly contribute to improving safety through a number of things. So there exists essentially 3 driveways now. We're going to be closing the middle driveway, which is the driveway most directly at the Post Road Circle. And we're going to end up with, instead of 3, having 2 driveways in the future. The Connecticut DOT and the US DOT calls this access management, when you essentially right size the number of driveways a development or a property has. And based on US DOT data, access management can have a significant reduction in crash potential. So we are going to be voluntarily closing a driveway and helping things out there. As I just mentioned, we're also going to have adequate sight lines, sight distances from our 2 remaining driveways. We're going to keep the driveway at Old Post Road right in, right out. We're going to align our site driveway at Post Road with the town's Kings Highway realignment project. And we're going to be adding new sidewalk along this entire site frontage. Another thing to note is, as I mentioned on the prior slides, there are some levels of service F from a traffic flow standpoint. But while that might be inconvenient to motorists, not every motorist, but motorists leaving the site, inconvenience does not equate to a safety issue. It's simply an inconvenience at the end of the day. All right, so next slide, I'm going to try to wrap this up concisely. Traffic, essentially, this is a summary of our traffic study. So there's no health or safety risks that are posed by this development with respect to traffic. This development's new traffic will actually, at the end of the day, only really still be a fraction of the total amount of roadway traffic out in the area. We're talking, at any given point, this development's traffic generated by this development will only be around 4 to 5% of all the roadway traffic in the area. This site's location is actually quite optimal on a high capacity state roadways for a development of this type and size. We can't look over the fact that, yes, it's going to create some it's going to generate traffic, but it's also going to it's going to have new residents here, which are going to be good for the businesses nearby on Post Road to the east. So that's a trade-off there. Safety improvements I mentioned, we're going to adding new sidewalk along the site frontage, eliminating a driveway, keeping the Old Post Road driveway as right in, right out. We're going to have adequate sight lines. Level of service, left turn out of the driveway to Post Road is projected to be a level of service F during peak hours. However, motorist delays of this left turn egress, they occur today, maybe not quite as much, but they do occur today. They'll be held on site, which is good for the general public at large. So we're going to be retaining those delays on site the way we have it proposed to be configured with the driveway access. And yes, when we look at traffic studies, we're looking at peak periods. So during off-peak times, we're not going to be dealing with levels of service for every hour of a day, for example. There are really no level of service impacts to the offsite intersections nearby. Even if you get a couple blocks or even less away, traffic starts to essentially fan out in each direction and becomes less and less as you get further away from the site. So there's really no impacts to offsite intersections. We're really focused on the site driveways here. And Connecticut DOT will be reviewing all this, as I mentioned, as part of their OSTA approval process, their encroachment permit process as well. And they'll be looking at all the technical aspects and our findings. They'll also look at whether or not a traffic signal is warranted at Post Road and Kings Highway and our site driveway. And at the current time, our initial finding is that it is not, but we're going to be looking at this further with Connecticut DOT. If they require a signal there, then that's what we'll do. And last but not least, the state and the town are working towards making significant improvements to the roadways out here that are adjacent to the site. As I mentioned, reconfiguring the Post Road Circle, realigning Kings Highway, and restriping Post Road to really improve overall traffic flow and safety and to accommodate growth such as the site development, redevelopment. So that's really it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Braun?
Could you show us on the most updated plans where I'm looking at the movement and the intersection levels of service? There are several areas where it's going down. Could you point where that is on the plans? One is northbound left, goes from an E to an F in the morning and D to an F in the afternoon. Then westbound left onto the Post Road goes from an A to a B in the afternoon. And southbound onto Kings Highway goes from an F to an F. Can you point where those intersections are? Can you also show which current egress is not going to be there anymore? And are these where they are now? Like, are you getting rid of one of them? Right?
Why don't we go step by step here? That was a lot of
Step by
questions.
step, yeah.
So start with the locations of where you want them to.
If you could show the current driveways and the future driveways. This is the future driveways. Which one is disappearing? There's only two, right?
There's 3 driveways today. So the one that's disappearing is right in the middle. I don't have control of the hand, but if you look, actually, I think, is that Emma? Do you have that?
Yeah.
So if you move the hand just to slight amount to the right, it's kind of hard to see, but that curb cut right there is going away. That's an existing curb cut that we are closing.
Members of the public, please, if you
So-
whispering, we can pick it up and it hurts the record and it distracts us. Ladies, please.
So the
The north is actually not up, but it's down on this, so it's might be slightly confusing. Yeah, let's keep the hand there. So what you see as the exactly that left turn arrow in the middle, that will be the when you boil it down, that'll be the level serves F.
is that where it is now? The driveway that you can exit?
It's
sort of,
quite similar. I believe it's shifting a tad, 50 feet under this proposed.
More towards the circle and away from Bridgeport.
Essentially, yes, correct.
So that's the one that's going from an F to an F. So from an F to an F, what is the actual change in service level? Is it an F minus, minus?
That's not going from an F to an F. That's going from a D to an F and an E to an F.
I see an F to an F on southbound. Oh, I see the one on Kings Highway goes to an F to an F.
The Kings Highway left out, which is actually opposite our site, is the F to F. It's an F to A. It's going to stay an F.
Where's the F to the F turn?
Yeah, if you zoom out and you go down to where it says upside down CT, you know what? It's not quite shown well there, the curb cuts, but it's essentially right in that vicinity.
So are you saying that it will not change that? I know there's no lower grade than an F, but at the service level, it's going to be more of a delay.
That's correct. Yes, it's going to be an F, and there. Once you hit a delay over a certain threshold, the delay in terms of number of seconds, you get into the F category.
So how much more of a delay is it after, with the combined versus the background?
For the site exit or the Kings?
For the F to the F.
Let me look. I have to look in. It's in our appendix. It definitely increases in delay. It increases a respectable amount. I don't have it at my fingertips.
So when we were just, we've incorporated the whole record of the prior hearing into this record, and we had a whole conversation about, in school, you can't get below an F. get a 60 or a 0, you have an F. But in traffic, it really
That's true.
matters because you could be adding to the delay, and it could be much worse to have an F- or a G or an H. You know, we don't give those grades, but maybe we
No, I
should.
disagree. I don't want to interrupt, but Connecticut DOT, the US Department of Transportation, they don't have anything that is different gradations of the level of service F. Nothing exists as you're implying. There's no negative level of service. There's no level service minus. There's no level service F plus. There's no level service F
But then-
minus.
I hear you, but this commission is charged with not creating a worse safety hazard. So I would like to know what the additional delay is and whether the DOT uses F and nothing below it. Our commission can decide what we consider safe. And if it's adding 30 seconds or 50 seconds of delay, we might determine that makes it less safe, regardless of what grade the DOT might assign to it.
Well, level of service is not a safety issue. As I mentioned, it's an inconvenience factor. And that's what the traffic engineering industry agrees with at large. Level service F does not equate to safety. Safety is completely different than traffic flow levels of service. So they're two different things. The commission could do what it thinks, but I want to make it clear, levels of service and traffic safety are two different things. And I can look at our appendix and find out what that delay is. It'll take me a few
And then
minutes.
you don't have to do it right this minute, but I would like to know that. And then the other ones, northbound left goes from an E to an F and a D to an F, in the AM and PM. Could you just point where that is on there? It says northbound left site egress. It goes from an E to an F in the AM and a D to an F in the PM. Where is that on there?
Yeah, that's the middle left turn arrow that we just looked at. Right there.
That seems to be the problem area right there. Whether it goes to Kings Highway or right on the Post Road is going to have a service level delay.
From a level service standpoint, that's correct. That's really the focus here.
And there's another one going from A to a B. That's westbound on left on the Post Road. Could you point where that is?
Yeah, if we scroll over to the right. So the old Post Road approach,
Says
not
Post-
there, not necessarily there, but the old Post Road approach to the circle, which has its own stop sign. Further down, closer to the where it says FL on the topo line. Yeah, I don't quite have control of the hand, but if you go to a little bit to the north or the upper left of that, yep, right there, yep, right around there, yep, that's the old Post Road approach to Post Road that we're talking about with that level service B. B is quite good actually at the end of the day.
And then that project you were talking about, this came up again in the prior hearing. That's sort of in a design or concept stage. It hasn't been approved. We don't know when that will happen. Right?
Well, it is moving forward to my understanding. Yes, it's still in design.
So right now, if it doesn't go forward for 5 or 10 years, whatever you're creating will be what we're showing right here. It will not be fixed until or unless.
Not necessarily. There's 3 separate state projects, so they don't all hinge on one another. The Kings Road realignment at Post Road opposite our site is its own standalone project. And this development coming in is going to get reviewed by the Connecticut DOT's Office of State Traffic Administration and several other offices by itself, regardless of when the Post Road Circle gets reconfigured. So they could theoretically ultimately say that you need to put a traffic signal in here at the Kings Highway and Post Road site driveway, regardless of what happens with the Post Road Circle reconfiguration. That could theoretically happen. Our initial finding is that the signal is not warranted because there are trade-offs with putting in a traffic signal. So when you do put in a traffic signal, yes, you do help a left turn F out of the site, but then you add essentially a red light to public traffic passing by on Post Road. So there's a trade-off there. Traffic is all about trade-offs. So Connecticut DOT is going to be looking at that, and we're going to be working with them. And ultimately, it's their roadway, Post Road, that is. And they are going to have to approve this development. So if they ultimately decide that signal is warranted, then we'll go along with that. We'll have to. That'll just be the way it is. They could also, as was brought up,
I
they
think
could
let's
also
keep it
recommend turn
stream-
restrictions.
let's
Sorry.
just keep it streamlined.
Can I just hear what he finished saying? I didn't hear what he said just now, or.
Yeah, and Connecticut DOT could also end up, they could also require turn restrictions at our site. And again, it's really at the state roads there. It's their jurisdiction, and we're gonna work with them, but ultimately it's their final call. And we're gonna go with whatever they want.
Thank you.
Connecticut DOT.
Commissioner Levy?
Yes, Sterlinski, yeah. Number one, closing off that middle entryway, I think it's a good idea. Anybody coming out of the Old Post Road, while somebody is coming into that middle entryway, without signaling, often creates a hazard. But I'm very concerned about the Post Road route, the Post Road there, entrance, exit. I mean, somebody coming out of Route 1 to 130 going westbound, I mean, anybody with a cervical condition, good luck trying to get out of there because you can't see it as it is now, vehicles coming from the left on the Post Road. And now all of a sudden you're going to have many cars exiting from that entry exit way, which will, that to my mind creates a real safety concern. Have you considered, or would you consider when you present this to the DOT, that the entryway along Post Road be ingress only and not an exit, and that the exit from the property be right turn only onto the Old Post Road? From a safety standpoint, wouldn't that eliminate many of the problems of that intersection there between the Post Road 130 and the proposed development?
Yeah, we've definitely considered that. So there's a couple of things that you brought up. One of them was I think you said visibility might not be good, which is not quite true because we're going to be regrading the frontage of the site, putting in a new sidewalk. And we're going to have adequate visibility at all the driveways. But the bulk of what you mentioned as far as making that Post Road site driveway a right out only, or even an ingress only, we have considered that. We have considered that quite a bit. But as I mentioned, traffic's all about trade-offs. What that would essentially do is push much more of the site traffic out to Old Post Road, which will have a greater impact, in our opinion, on the general public, because now you're going to be you're adding essentially much more traffic to that stop sign approach of Old Post Road at the Post Road Circle right there, which is going to have a greater impact on the general public, as opposed to allowing left turns out of our site, which we have recommended and did a report on. Keeping the left turn there would retain more of that delay on site and have less of an impact on the general public. That's exactly why we did what we did.
And just one last question, on the proposed circle DOT plan, will the area of the Post Road, Route 1, Post Road there, Route 130, will that still be two-way, or will that be one-way going to the right only?
So say it again. So Post Road.
Post Road, will that be, assuming the state ever gets around to redeveloping the circle there, will that be one way, or will that still be two-way traffic there?
Post Road will still be two-way traffic. It will.
Thank you.
Randolph.
So these questions are a little bit redundant, but just clarifying. So you talk about OSTA, their jurisdiction, and if the design doesn't meet their requirements. Could you just talk about who OSTA is, what their authority is, and if this project doesn't meet their requirements, whether you can get a building permit?
Yeah. So OSTA stands for the Office of State Traffic Administration. They are an office within the larger Connecticut Department of Transportation, and they essentially are the office that they look at a number of things, but one of the things they look at and they're charged with per state statutes is reviewing what they call, or what are called, major traffic generators, which are essentially developments over a certain square footage size threshold or that have more than X number of parking spaces. So once you're large enough, it automatically triggers a review by the OSTA office, Connecticut DOT's OSTA office. And I know I can't speak for them, but they're not in the business of denying developments. Ultimately, they will require any development to do off-site mitigation to accommodate any specific developments added traffic. So that could, as I got into before, that could end up meaning that a signal might have to get put in at Post Road. And if that was a requirement of OSTA, then this development would not be allowed to get a building permit unless that signal got put in first, essentially. Or they could look at some other offsite mitigation or accommodation or modification to the site access or the adjacent roadways or the nearby intersections to accommodate this new traffic. They will look at that, and they could ultimately require other offsite improvements. Our finding in our traffic study is that they probably won't, but they'll look at everything and they'll give it their own independent look, and they're going to look at it from their angle, and we're going to work with them, obviously, and ultimately these are their Post Road right there, Route 130, and the circle to the really what is the west or to the right is Route 1, US Route 1. Those are under ConEd's jurisdiction, so we're going to do what they say.
Thank you. Mr. Randolph, any more?
Yeah, second question related to, I know you've talked about a couple of designs. It's affectionately called the peanut, the large, basically the reconfiguration of the circle where McDonald's is located. And then the Kings Highway, I'll just say the Post Road East, 130 East, has a proposed improvement. What phase of design are those two projects in? And when projects are in that phase of design, what is the probability, in your experience as a traffic engineer, of the projects going forward?
Regardless of the phase of design, a development, can move forward regardless of the phase of the design. So
I'm sorry, I didn't state my question clearly. I'm talking about the improvements at the circle, the large improvement, which we call the peanut, which is the reconfiguration across the medical office, between the medical office and the McDonald's. I think you got it labeled as 3 and 6 on your figure 3 in your traffic report. It's where 130 and the post and Route 1 split. So that's the large, that's the large proposal. And then the second proposal is on the Post Road going towards Bridgeport. There, as I understand, there's a design proposed there. So my question is, what phase are each of those, not your project, not the proposed housing project, but the roadway improvement designs? What phase of design are they in? And when a project is in that phase of design, what has your experience been that those projects will get funded and go forward?
So the peanut reconfiguration that you see here essentially is still in preliminary design, from my understanding, early on in the process. So it's quite early in the process still. The Post Road Route 130 going to Black Rock is further along. I think it's closer to construction documents. So much further along in the design process and closer to getting implemented. The Post Road Route 130 is certainly a less expensive project, so it's I don't see anything holding that up, to be honest. There's a lot of factors. Some of this is dependent on federal funding, perhaps, and state funding. But this Post Road Circle has been what you see in front of you has been a key focus for quite some time. There have been multiple looks at this and studies of redoing this. So it's been a focus of the town, the COG, the Metro Council of Government, regional planning agency, and Connecticut DOT for quite some time. So I suspect they're going to want this to happen. I can't speak for them, but I think it's going to happen. I would expect it will happen. Just a matter of time.
And if one or both of those projects occur, will it improve the traffic conditions in the area?
It'll improve pre-existing conditions. That's not to say that pre-existing conditions, or put the kibosh or whatever on any development. It just, development, traffic congestion. There's some out there today. It is what it is, and yes, developments come in and they're going to add more traffic. But it could nudge people to make more walking trips or work from home more and things like that.
All right, thank you.
Come on.
All right. All right, any other questions, Commissioner Randolph? Any other questions from Mr. Alinsky? Mr. Braun, if it can be brief.
Question about the crash data. I thought last time we asked for updated data because this 5-year history showing 114 crashes in the vicinity ends about a year ago. I think June of 2024. Do you have updated crash records?
No, not at this point. No, but we did look at over 5 years of crash data in our report, I think from 2019 to June of last year. So it's pretty representative of what's going on out there. I can't imagine the last year of crash data would
Thank you.
significantly
It's all right.
change
Just wanna
things.
keep things.
To answer your question, no, we haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I've got one question now. So Neil, would OSTA approve a development that created a public safety issue? Or would they in fact require the development to come up with some on-site or off-site fix to that safety issue before they'd issue the approval?
Right. They would require, if they found some safety issue, they would require this development. If they found a safety issue caused by this development, they would require this development to address that in some sort of design fashion, either the site access or an off-site intersection.
Thank you. Can I move to the next?
I think we're all set. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Neil.
I have a question.
Commissioner Harrison, go ahead.
Mr. Alinsky, thank you for being here. Are you being paid by the applicant?
Yes, working for the developer or the applicant.
Okay, so would the question that you answered by Attorney Blank, would that be objective or?
The question that I just answered, it would certainly be objective because I'm
Okay.
speaking on, again, I don't speak for Oster DOT, but my experience is yes, ultimately they give it a independent look, objective look. And
so this answer is totally objective, has nothing to do with any connection with the applicant?
All right, I think that's been
Correct.
answered.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
A follow-up, can we get that delay time at some point this evening, maybe?
That's fine. I think he said it was in the appendix, but Mr.
Report, yeah.
If somebody can get that specific information, Mr. Alinsky, if you can get that specific information, while we get the next presenter going, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Attorney Blank.
Joe Versteeg? I think Joe's online.
I am.
Well,
Good evening. My name is, I'm sorry,
Excuse me, go ahead.
I'm sorry. My name is Joe Versteeg. I'm a building and fire code consultant, specializing in compliance with those codes. I've been retained by the applicant in this matter. You have before you and has been submitted my April 8th letter to Planning and Zoning, which identifies that I have reviewed the plans for the architectural plans, floor plans, elevations, as well as the site plans for compliance with the building code, the fire code, and the fire prevention code. And it's my expert opinion that the project is compliant with those administrative regulations for the state of Connecticut. You also have my resume before you. To expand on that briefly, I have over 40 years of experience in enforcing, developing, administering building and fire safety codes. The last 28 after my retirement from the state of Connecticut State Fire Marshal's office. The last 28 has been an independent consultant providing consulting services to architects, engineers, building owners, municipalities. We do third-party reviews for municipalities. We've done some for the town of Fairfield. I am a licensed building official and a certified fire marshal in the state of Connecticut. I've taught seminars for the state of Connecticut for building official, fire marshal, and architect continuing education credits, as well as being a contract instructor for the National Fire Protection Association on a domestic and international basis for over 25 years. As you know, compliance with Connecticut building codes and fire codes ensures a building environment that provides for not only for the health and safety of the building occupants, as well as the surrounding community, and also for firefighters and emergency responses. This is a result of stringent requirements governing construction materials, structural stability and strength, egress facilities, energy conservation, fire protection systems and features associated with the interior environment, such as light and ventilation, sanitation, and healthy air. You also are aware of the fact that the state statutes, as well as the requirements within the building and fire code, require that construction documents detailing every little aspect of the building be developed and submitted for review by your building department and your fire department. Only upon satisfactory compliance with the codes will you then obtain a building permit. And once construction is begun, there are statutorily and code required mandates for mandated inspections at various phases to ensure that the work proposed in the plans is in compliance with the code. I've also looked at the fire department access to the site. There was a comment, and we've determined it to be compliant. There was a comment from the fire marshal that the height of the building at 6 stories renders the roof unreachable by their ladder truck. And I would agree with that in total. And that's why the Connecticut State Building Code has, since 1971, in section 1102.12, required that any building 4 or more stories in height have at least one stairway to provide access to the roof. In conclusion, I would tell you that having reviewed these plans, that the building is in total compliance with the building and fire safety code with regards to height, construction materials, fire protection, location on the property, and fire department access, and does not pose a significant risk to life or property. And this project will not have an adverse impact to a substantial public interest, nor does it pose any safety concerns. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Questions for Mr. Versteeg? We're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just take a few minutes to finish up. I want to talk about the 8-30G standard, and I know you've heard it more than you probably care to, but for the record and for the public, so as you know, applications under 8-30G, they have to be approved unless the Planning and Zoning Commission proves that the decision is necessary to, an adverse decision is necessary to protect some substantial public interest in health, safety, or other matters, which the commission can legally consider, and that those interests must clearly outweigh the need for affordable housing. And they have to demonstrate that those public interests cannot be protected by reasonable changes to the affordable housing development. That came from the Beach Road decision. And again, with respect to the need for affordable housing, court cases in Connecticut are replete with references to the need for affordable housing, including many cases talking specifically about that need in Fairfield. Again, that Beach Road, we put up a site on that from the Beach Road decision. I won't go through all of the background on the continued need for affordable housing in Connecticut and in Fairfield specifically. That is contained in our written submitted materials, and which it does, in addition to the original paperwork we filed, you do have, again, in the record, a very lengthy letter with citations dated May 27th, 2025, detailing the need for affordable housing in Connecticut and Fairfield specifically. And I know that's part of the record here tonight. So as we stated a week ago, the proposed project meets those standards set forth in 8-30G. We set aside 30% of the units as affordable for 40 years. 73 of those units are at 60% AMI, 71 at 80% of AMI. Details of the plan are described in our affordability plan, which is part of the record. I think within the last week, Mark Barnhart did review that plan, issued a letter to you all, finding that we were compliant with town standards in 8-30G with a few very minor suggested tweaks that he said ought to be made conditions of approval, which we have no issue with. You've heard from the various experts that there are in fact no public health or safety concerns or hazards created by the development that would warrant or permit a denial under 8-30G and trump the need for affordable housing. And we do believe the application is sort of fully compliant with the TAM and the standards under 8-30G. And additionally, because this application is so similar to the mixed use application that was previously approved, and that's with respect to both CAM, coastal resources, parking, traffic safety, fire code. All of those things are very, very similar here as they were on that mixed use. By virtue of that prior approval on the mixed use plan, it's you've sort of essentially confirmed that, at least with respect to those items, it's hard to say that now there's a health or safety concern that didn't exist a few weeks ago when you passed the mixed use plan. Obviously, they're not all identical, but many of them though are. And of course, the standard of review on this application is much stricter than it would be on the mixed use special permit and text change application. I do want to just one final sort of thought is I think about why I think you ought to also approve this application, and I suspect that some of you might be saying to yourselves that you like the mixed use application a lot, and you liked it more than you like this application. So why don't we just deny the 8-30G and try to help push forward the mixed use application by denying the 8-30G? And sort of I had actually argued the opposite is actually true. That the best thing you can do if you want to see the mixed use application move forward, which is what we want to see ultimately move forward, but the best thing you can do is to approve this 8-30G application. Attorney Green and his clients, they also really like the mixed use application a lot more than they like this application. And if this is approved, it may well lead to an appeal that's been filed on the mixed use application being withdrawn, or a quicker resolution of the mixed use application so that we can ultimately proceed with that. Again, I'm sure they're not going to admit to that tonight, but I do think that.
I don't need to get into that. Did we incorporate did you ask for to incorporate the last record?
I did.
Yeah, and we did that.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, okay. That was, Commissioner Braun mentioned it earlier, and I just wasn't sure one way or the other. Okay. Anything further?
That's it. I mean, obviously, other than allowing some time to rebut after the.
Commissioner Braun?
So you're saying that there can't be any concerns with safety, even though this is 478 units instead of 250 units, and there's 687 parking spaces, which with an equal amount of additional traffic, wouldn't that arise to the level of a safety concern?
I guess I didn't follow all of those. It seemed like there are a few.
It's not exactly the same project.
It's not exactly the same project. I think there's, in my view, there's no chance that a court would say, if you said we're denying this because you're building too close to the marsh. Well, the other project was just as close to the marsh and it was approved. I think that would be inconsistent. It is the different project. It does have a different number of parking spaces. It's a different mix. But again, many of the components are the same or so similar that it's challenging to differentiate them.
I still feel like each project has to rise and fall on its own merits, and this one is 72 feet tall. This is taller than the last one, therefore more light going into the marsh, the wildlife, more noise, more disturbance to the wildlife. So I think there could be issues of environmental or safety concerns, but that's.
Well, yeah, we'll see if we hear any expert
And
testimony.
then, as far as affordability, you might not be aware of it, but the governor just signed that, bill into law today, which will pretty much let you do whatever you want. So not much to worry about now.
It's gonna change things.
That's just my commentary. Thank you.
Why the hell are we here?
Any other final questions for Attorney Blank? We'll get a second chance later at rebuttal. Mr. Olinsky, did you have that delay figure for Commissioner Braun?
Yep. All right, so the morning peak hour is has the longest delays, and these are calculated delays, so.
Just the time, please. I mean, I know, and
Yep.
intersection before and after with the delay. So can you just give that to us so we can get to the public?
Yeah, left turn out of the site, calculated delay under background conditions without this development is 40 seconds. With the development, calculated to be 179 seconds.
So it goes from 40 to 179?
The calculated delay, that's simplistic.
I'm saying right now it's 40 and it's gonna go to 179. Okay.
Calculated, but I think ultimately things will rebalance a bit because we do have a second driveway.
Okay, just wanted the time. That's okay.
Yep.
That's, how much of an increase is that? That's 130
Whatever,
seconds.
whatever the
increase?
math is. It
2
goes from
minutes?
40 seconds to 40 seconds to 3 minutes.
That's 100,
Yeah,
100,
Whatever the math is. So
that's like
whatever.
2 minutes?
Again, that's probably not going to pan out in real life because we have a secondary driveway egress. So some folks will say, I don't want to wait for a left. I'll just go out to Old Post Road. So in reality, there is a rebalancing because things are more dynamic and traffic studies are quite static and simplistic.
Old Post Road
Thank
can
you.
have its
Hold on,
own.
can we-
host of
let's go to-
problems.
we just asked for the time. We got the time. So, all right. We're gonna turn to public comment, I think. I'll close the initial presentation portion of this application. We'll turn to public comment on 441 Post Road. Attorney Green, I think we should start with you. And then we can turn to members of the public. You'll kind of give us a good outline of, on your end. So 8 o'clock. Janaicus. Attorney Green, about a half hour, say a little bit more than that. Can I just see members of the public in person, hands who's like to speak on this application again? 441 Post Road. More than that, last I checked. Just one more time, anybody here, members of the public that wish to be heard in this application, you just show me your hands, please. I feel like there was more. All right, but I see like 10-ish.
That's
a different.
Yeah, it's a different
You asked a
question
different question.
last time.
Oh, what did I ask last time?
Who was here?
Here for the, who was?
Oh, that's a fair point. Okay, my mistake. So all right, I'm just trying to get a sense of whether there's a chance that we will finish this before Biro Street. I just don't think we will.
I have two people remote for 441 Post as well.
All right,
Mr.
so
Green's gonna take 10 minutes there.
Bauer, he said. I don't want to keep these
I
people
think
here.
I missed something about 10 minutes. Was that?
No, don't worry about that. It's a
Okay.
joke.
Yeah.
Good joke.
I just don't know if we're gonna get to Bauer Street tonight. I just say that with just based on experience. Attorney Green and presentations and all these people and then rebuttal. At best, if everything worked out, it'd be 9:30. Best.
And if they open it and speak for half an hour, it helps with our
No,
time.
I know, but I don't want to tell the members of the public that
Well, I would.
they're
I
not
would
gonna
strongly-
start and then
I would
start.
Strongly suggest to members of the public that it's not likely that there will be public comment.
Well, that's certainly the case. That's a fair point. Okay.
So if
so
they
to
would
Biro
like
Street,
to
yeah.
Go
Go
home and
remote,
watch
yeah.
remotely.
Yeah.
They can certainly do that and come back for the public hearing next week. If they would like to testify in the public.
No, that's a fair point. So members of the public for Biro Street. We have to finish up this application, which goes through Attorney Green and at least 10, I think I saw hands plus 2 online. And then rebuttal from the applicant again. It's unlikely. I'd be pleasantly surprised if we opened the application for Biro Street. And if we did, it would be for 10 to 20 minutes tops. At the very least, there's certainly not going to be public comment on Biro Street tonight. So Ms. Harrigan's point is fair. We are doing this remotely. feel free to stay, obviously, and listen to this and see how it is in general. But any member of the Biro Street, you can certainly go home, check online remotely at 9:30 or so, listen to it, presentation remotely. And this is probably something I should have, our curfew is 10 o'clock. We are gonna stick probably to that at the very least, unless we're finishing this application. So I just want to give everybody as much information I can to make decisions for themselves.
Can you just decide to open it at a different date?
Well, that's what we'll end up doing. If we don't open it, if we don't get to Biro Street tonight, it will happen next Tuesday.
Make the decision now to just.
We're so jam-packed. If I find 10 minutes to open that, I will. So that's kind of my problem. If it wasn't, I would make that commitment to you. I have in the past, but I'm just too jammed. I need to find minutes everywhere. So I'll leave that to your considerations. Let me turn back to 441 Post Road. Attorney Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, staff. My name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport, the law offices of Green and Gross. It's my pleasure to appear before you this evening on behalf of the Fairfield Circle Neighbors for Responsible Development, which is composed of, obviously, as it's stated, residents of the neighborhood and frankly beyond, who are frankly shocked by this development. And our presentation is going to be brief this evening. We've seen many of these developments in town at this point. We've heard the commission. We understand I understand fully the jurisdiction of the commission and the constraints on the commission and the concerns of the commission. And we are going to get right to it. But I do have to comment briefly, just in response to some of the comments by the applicant, who suggested that this is some sort of game where you don't grant this, you get that. And sort of this binary situation, which I take great offense at. That's not the way that zoning works. And to suggest you should grant this to force the market rate development or to sort of advance that application or vice versa. And the applicant hinted at that on the last application is offensive because there are legal standards that bind how this commission operates, the jurisdiction of this commission. And I know that you're familiar with them. And so tonight we are going to be brief because simply we are going to provide this commission with the evidence and the tools that it needs to deny this application because this application is not safe and it does invoke and presents substantial issues that affect public health and safety in this town. So we're going to get to that. And in terms of that comment where it's this or that, honestly, this applicant hasn't shown any regard for this neighborhood, the neighbors and the residents of the Circle region in this plan, because another alternative would have been if they were so concerned with having a market mixed use development, they could have worked with the neighborhood in a cooperative way. And we can quibble about that. But I have a number of neighboring residents who can assure you that they didn't feel heard by this applicant. But once again, I'm going to stay within the jurisdiction of this commission on this application. So what I'd like to do first, we're going to go a little bit backwards tonight. I'm going to start off with the experts that we have, and then I'll make some comments, that express the concerns and interests of my clients. So I'd like to begin with Jim Bubaris of Bubaris Traffic Associates. Mr. Bubaris, are you here remotely?
I am.
So Mr. Bubaris's professional resume was submitted in the record last Tuesday. Can you just briefly, for the benefit of the public and the benefit of the commission, I suppose, briefly describe your education, training, and experience?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Jim Bubaris. I'm a principal in Bubaris Traffic Associates. We're traffic engineering consultants located in East Hampton, Connecticut. I hold a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, a master's degree in traffic engineering. I am registered as a professional engineer here in Connecticut and other states. And I've been in the uh, position of doing traffic engineering for over 55 years.
And Mr. Bubaris, just for the benefit of the commission, and I'm asking this in response to a question that one of the commissioners had asked earlier. Primarily over those 50 plus years that you've been doing this, do you primarily work with developers, applicants, parties in opposition? What has your experience been with that?
Well, I pretty much have done it all. I was the head traffic engineer for a New England-based consulting firm years back. Prior to that, I was with the Department of Traffic Engineering with the Pennsylvania Department of Highways for 5 years. I was with the consultant I spoke about for 3 years. I was West Hartford's traffic engineer for 13 years, and I've been on my own as a consultant for 35 years. And to answer your question directly, I've done it all. I do traffic signals, I do traffic impact statements, I do development work for developers, I do work for municipalities, I do peer reviews. I've done it all for every aspect of traffic engineering, including the planning, the design, and the maintenance and the operations.
Thank you. And at my request, did you conduct a peer review of this application?
I have.
And did you review the traffic impact study prepared by SLR in this matter?
I have.
And did you review the other related documents, the Post Road Circle study prepared by MetroCog, the site plans and the like with respect to this application?
I have.
And after reviewing those documents, is it your professional opinion, based on your education, training, and experience, that the traffic plan that is presented in this application is one that is safe?
I find that it is not safe.
And in what respects is this unsafe?
Well, I think they themselves have indicated what the problem is in the presentation that was made by the developer's traffic engineer tonight. The left turn coming out of the site, if it's at the East Drive, is very big problem. It's a very big problem because now with the development being as big as it is, the average delay, now this means the average, there's going to be even longer delays than the average, is up to 180 seconds to make a left turn out of the site. That's 3 minutes. That means for 3 minutes, somebody's got to sit there to make the left turn. If they don't know that they can go down to the West Drive instead and come out that way with a right turn, and then be able to go to the west, which is what a left turn out of the development is oriented to. So I don't understand why they're avoiding what is the obvious thing to do here. And as presented, it's unsafe. And they keep saying that level of service is not an indicator of whether or not something is unsafe. It only shows what the delay is and how long people have to wait in order to make their moves. Well, the point is, if people have to wait for a long time, they get frustrated, they get impatient, and then they start taking chances, and then they may accept and try to make their maneuver in less of a gap than what is really required to make a safe move. So that's unsafe. And studies have shown that when you get levels of service Fs and you get things that aren't working properly, people get frustrated, they take chances, and it causes accidents.
And in your professional experience, are you 100% certain that human safety is adversely impacted, that human safety is threatened by this application?
As it is presented and shown for the design, yes, I am 100% sure.
And at my request, did you prepare a report?
I did.
And I'd like to just have you briefly go through your report. I have copies for the commission if that would be helpful. Just
Drop it off and she'll set it down.
Same as what you posted.
correct.
You just pass it down or?
It's June 3rd.
All right, if you could just briefly run through your report.
Well, as you know, it's 5 pages long, and much of it is what I've already said with the mixed use report that I presented. But I can hone in on my conclusions at the end, which I basically got into just now in the questions that you asked me.
That's fine. That's
I
fine.
find the level of service for the left turn coming out of the site is very problematic, and it's going to cause problems as it is. What they need to do is remove that left turn from the East Drive and have everybody go to the West Drive, especially with the way it ties in now to the circle, as you call it, and the way it's going to be addressed, that particular intersection, when it interfaces with the proposals I've seen for the improvements to that circle.
But to be clear, that analysis was not performed by the applicant with respect to this application. Is that correct?
Which analysis?
Of directing all the traffic, for example, to the western access way.
No, it was not done. But what I know, and it's obvious, is when you turn a left turn into a right turn, okay, you significantly reduce the amount of delay encountered, because a right turn only has to encounter traffic coming from the left, whereas a left turn has to encounter traffic coming from the left and the right. And in order to make a left turn out of a site safely, you have to have coincident gaps in the people who are coming from the left and from the right. And if you've got a lot of volume on the road that you're intersecting with, that left is, and if that left is difficult to be made, you've got a problem. I mean, it's just, traffic engineering 101. It's not a simpler concept to understand. And I can't believe they're not dealing with that. And again, what they did with their presentation is they gave you the levels of service summary in the table as they're supposed to, but they left out the key numbers that go with those levels of service. They left out the average delay that's associated with that level of service, and they also left out the numeric that we call volume to capacity. When you do the analyses that we do, we can estimate the capacity of a particular movement given its situation, its geometry, the amount of traffic it generates, what it has to deal with, the traffic control. It has a certain capacity. And these level of service analyses give you the capacity of every particular movement that we're evaluating. And then, as a summary, they give you the comparison of the particular volume to that capacity. And when you get a ratio that's higher than 1, that means that you've got more volume than the capacity can sustain. And that's what you're getting with this development, with this left turn that's going to be 180 seconds of delay, and is now up to, I have it here, is up to 143 additional vehicles per hour coming out of that driveway, versus the 102 with the previous proposal. and versus I think it was 40 with the one before that, which was the hotel as it stands now. So you've got a situation here. And you've you know, I understand what the developer's trying to do. He's trying to maximize his profit and everything like that. But he's got too much going on here, and he's trying to do it um, as I guess what's efficient for him as possible. But it's a disaster waiting to happen. I think that's enough.
Well, all right. I don't know if the commission has questions.
Commissioner Braun?
So can you just explain, the other expert from SLR mentioned that it doesn't matter if it goes from an F to an F. Can you explain whether it matters to you or not, going from an F to an F?
Well, certainly it matters. I mean, just because it stays in that F category, anything over 50 seconds of delay is an F. Okay, and we're up to 180 seconds of delay here for that left turn maneuver, and we're still calling it an F. All right, I mean, we probably should be calling it something else, but that's what it is. And typically when you do a table, like I said, a level of service table, it's not enough to just show the letter grade. You also show the numerics, the values that go with it. And it's obvious why they're not showing it, because they don't want you to alarm you as to what it is that they're creating here. All
So
right.
by my
So an
calculation,
F isn't an F. There are degrees of F, although we don't say it's an F plus versus an F minus or an F middle range. We still call it an F if it's over 50 seconds, but we give the values that go with that F so that you can see how severe an F it is. And this
So there's-
F is a severe F.
so it's not like in school where it doesn't matter what kind of F you get, you're still failing. This affects safety because it adds more. And I'm looking at, so we can't tag the developer to fix a current hazard problem, but by my calculation, this goes from a 40-second delay to a 179-second delay, which is an increase of 139 seconds, which is it adds more than a 2-minute delay. Am I correct in my math?
You're exactly right with your math, yes.
So does that mean that the hazards you described by adding to the delay is being caused by this project?
Well, the hazard's being caused to that left turn because that left turn is not being treated properly. And people who are going to be making that left turn are going to get frustrated and they're going to take chances. And when they take chances, some of them are going to get into trouble.
Does it solve the problem by thinking some people will go out on the other egress, which is, I think, the old post road?
I think it would solve the problem if you made everybody who needs to make the left go out that driveway.
Well, that
Don't
would-
leave it as an option. Make everybody have to go out that drive. And that was also brought up with the mixed use application that I reviewed.
Wouldn't that create another problem on the old post road?
Well, it'll create a problem in that you have a lot of traffic coming out, but it's a right turnout. So you got a right turn coming out and blending with one-way traffic. Okay, that's moving from the west to the east. That's a far better situation than having a left turn coming out that's got to deal with two-way traffic and has got traffic coming from the west and the east.
But just to address, if I may,
Sure,
but
yeah.
just to address that, and I just want to highlight, first of all, that analysis was not done, correct?
It was not done. No, it was
Oh,
not.
so that addresses, if I understand what you're saying correctly, that addresses that left turn problem specifically, correct?
Correct.
But only in terms of providing a way out, but the volume analysis in terms of all of those vehicles, the 75% of the vehicles in the peak hour that are trying to take that left turn, what that actually would result in on the site from 100 and some odd vehicles trying to do that hasn't been analyzed at all. Correct?
No, it has not, and maybe they should.
And the capacity analysis has not been analyzed for that.
Not to
correct?
my knowledge. I mean, it was implied that they looked at things, but it's not that they showed it to us in any form.
Thank you.
Commissioner Corsillo.
Okay, Mr. Bubaris, you outlined, I think, 6 major contentions with the applicant's traffic study in your report. And I think 5 of the 6 are focused on the East Drive, allowing a left turn. Is it fair to characterize that your view that is the primary source of threat to public safety from this project?
Yes, that's the biggest culprit there, and it's also the size of the development being what it is. It's too big.
So as I think you know, this commission for an 830G application can't deny an application for reasons that could be mitigated through reasonable accommodations by the developer. You talk about the elimination of the left turn from that drive. To what extent would making that a condition, eliminating the left drive, mitigate that threat to safety?
It would have a big impact. But as indicated by Attorney Green, we haven't seen the analysis. That should be evaluated.
You haven't seen the analysis of what that would lead to as far as all.
Correct, that's what I'm saying, all right?
In terms of the impact on the level of service and all of the other of the points that you identified.
There's been no feasibility analysis on that.
Correct. See, they have the model. They have the model that's been built that represents the roadway structure that's being evaluated here. So for them, it's very easy to, move the numbers around, change the operation of the intersections accordingly and evaluate it and come up with a conclusion as to what this all does. All right. And in my opinion is it's going to show a significant improvement and most likely remove the safety problem that's inherent to what they're showing right now.
I had a question too, but go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner Levy.
Thank you.
Getting right to the point, do you have an opinion? Let me give you 2 scenarios. If the eastern drive is made ingress only and the western drive is made right turn only, would there still be a substantial threat to the public health and safety?
In other words, you can't make a right, in that scenario, you would not be able to make a right turn out of the site from the East Drive?
The ingress only, you could only
The
enter.
ingress in. I don't think that's a wise move, all right? Again, we'd have to see how it all plays out in an analysis. But the right turn coming out of the East Drive is not the problem, it's the left turn. So allow the right turn out, make it an inbound as it is, it's going to continue being an inbound, but put the left turn, okay, eliminate the left turn and make it be a right turn at the West Drive. That would solve a big concern here.
And that's my second question. If you make the eastern drive right turn only and the western right turn only, or just exit only, would that eliminate the substantial threat to public safety, in your opinion?
Yes.
As I understand it, the analysis and the consequences of that downstream have not been shown.
I'm aware of that.
Commissioner Braun.
But we don't know what the impact would be on the old Post Road, which is a residential street, of adding 687 cars or 143 cars at peak hour
That's what commission,
exiting
that's what, that's
onto
what
the old
attorney,
post road. So
that's
we
what
don't have that
attorney-
analysis. So how,
that's what Attorney Green's point. That's what Commissioner Levy acknowledged
I'm
too.
asking Mr. Boveris if he, do we have to have more analysis to make that conclusion that it would be safe on the old post road there?
Is that a question to me?
Because people go on the old post road as a cut through from the I do it all the time.
Well, I would suggest that you ask them to do an analysis and show us what it does. And that way we could be certain.
Commissioner Randolph.
In reference to your 5-page memo, I think we discussed, it's really 4, 5, and I'm sorry, 6, 5, and 4. You say a poor level of service, and I'm going to go backwards from 6. A poor level of service indicates a safety concern. Now, that's a pretty broad statement. So if you go from A to a B, does that indicate a safety concern?
An A and a B aren't a poor level of service. I'm saying a poor level of service. A poor level of service is an E and an F.
If you go from an E to an F, it indicates a safety concern.
Correct. Even a D to an E and to an F, okay? It starts to raise a safety concern.
Is that a consensus amongst licensed professional traffic engineers? If you go from a D to an E, it poses a safety concern.
I think it's what we all think it should, it says. It's not, levels of service isn't just an operational tool. It also tells you where you have other issues that you need to address. And if there's a lot of delay, again, I'm repeating myself, it causes frustration and people take chances and they could get themselves into trouble. So you got to deal with it.
But here's the
Gonna look at all this, as they
Here's the
said.
question. Here's the kind of the question and what we've been hearing from Mr. Alinsky and now from you. Mr. Alinsky was pretty clear with us in his professional opinion that levels of service do not equal safety. So, I mean, that was pretty clear on his end. And you're suggesting otherwise, and I understand what, the argument that you're putting forth. So I guess the first question, I guess, is the level of service a safety concern in the industry?
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, that's okay.
I mean, that's the way I've been schooled. Level of service. Why do you think we do the analysis? We do the analysis not only to see how things operate, but also are there things that are going to be unsafe here with what we're proposing that we need to deal with?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're sitting there I can see both sides. First off, I understand your point about being frustrated, but at the same time, people are frustrated all the time driving. It doesn't mean they should be taking chances. So at what point does this become a safety issue as opposed to, a safety issue from a design standpoint that we hold against the applicant versus a driver's safety?
When you've got a high level of service F here, 180 seconds, that should be ringing everybody's bell. And it should be telling everybody, we need to do something differently here. And that's what I'm saying. And I said it with the last application, and I would say it with any application, if that's what I was looking at as the result of the analysis. I mean, they gave you the result of the analysis, and the first go around was, well, an F is an F is an F. That
Right,
was
so I'm sorry. You made your point, and I think you answered the question. So, and you write here, poor level of service indicates a safety concern. Learn something new every day. Had not heard that before. And then you say, number 5, you suggest a way to address that. Is this safety concern something that can be engineered and corrected reasonably? Or is it impossible to fix this problem? Because that's what as a commission, we're tasked to figure out what conditions we need to put on the project in order, if they can reasonably be put on the project, if it can be safe. we're not here to decide whether we like it, whether it's inconvenient for people to wait in line for a longer period of time. Can this issue be addressed in your professional opinion, or is it impossible to fix?
In my professional opinion, and I'll say it again, the East Drive should be right turnout only, also inbound, and right turnout only. The West Drive should continue to be right in, right out. That will make a better situation overall than what is being presented.
Okay, that's clear, and that's what you say here. So it sounds as if there is, with further evaluation, a reasonable way to address this issue.
Correct.
Now, number 4, I was going backwards. We'll talk about OSTA, and you say OSTA will find a way to make it happen. Now, that is as a public official and a member of citizen of Connecticut, it sounds like you have zero confidence in OSTA, which is a state government agency that's given the responsibility to assure our safety. It sounds like you have no confidence in their capability.
No, I'm sorry, it is being interpreted that way. What I'm
Reading
saying.
words. Read the words. I'm reading your words here.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, but let me tell you what I mean here. OSTA's job is to work with the town in order to do what the town wants to do with the project. If the town approves this project, all right, after due consideration, and they've gone through the whole process, which is what you're doing, and you approve it, OSTA will find a way to allow that to happen. And what that means, and even the traffic consultant for the developer said it tonight as well in his presentation, they will impose certain requirements on the developer in order to make the situation safe and to make it flow right. And
So
for all you know, they might say you need to put a traffic signal up on that full access egress drive, that East Drive, even though it's not warranted. There's a situation where maybe you need to put up a traffic signal. They might say that.
To edit what you have here, you say the town approves the development, OSTA will find a way to make it happen. But you should, the correct, the omitted word safely? Is
Make
that
it happen safely. Yes. That's the whole definition of OSTA.
Okay, because
OSTA has been put out there in order to make sure that everything that's approved is safe.
Okay. And so if we make that a condition of approval, we're assured that the project will be safe.
Make what a condition of
OSTA's
approval?
approval.
Excuse me?
We make OSTA's approval a condition of the project. We're reasonably assured the traffic conditions will be safe. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I've worked with these guys for a long, long time. Yes, they're going to do the right thing. All right. But what I'm trying to say to you is that one way you can solve the problems with the first application and this application was not to allow either one of them to be as big as they were being proposed. But OSTA's not going to make you do that. If you want it to be that big, they're going to deal with it being that big. And what I was hinting there was, maybe you, and I did say it in my whole report here, because the report goes on for 5 pages. I basically said, these developments as they're being proposed, they're too big. Make them smaller. Make the developer make them smaller. But I don't think you made that a condition of approval on the first one. I don't think so. You approved it as it was proposed. And part of the way of making that one safer would have been to make it smaller. But you didn't. But anyway, that's your choice.
We're discussing the second approval, and so my questions relate to that. So
You got that.
okay,
You got your answers, I think.
thanks. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Final questions? Mr. Barbaros?
Excuse me?
I was just asking if there's any other questions for you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Bubaris?
No, I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't hold the commission's questions against you.
How long did?
We're at 33 minutes, but I'm not going to hold the commission's questions against you.
Fair enough. All right, next I'd like to call on Steve Trinkus.
Oh, good evening. Commission members, Steve Trinkus for the record, and I will try to be very brief. I'm a licensed professional engineer with an office in Southbury. I've been licensed since 1988 and have a lot of expertise in low impact development, which is a focus on dealing with increased runoff volumes and water quality of runoff from impervious surfaces. I submitted a letter. I've seen the Land Tech response. I stand by my findings in the letter, but I want to focus on a couple of significant issues.
Mr. Trinkus, can I just handle a couple of things here?
Sure.
Mr. Trinkus's resume is in the record. His professional resume is in the record. At my request, did you review the stormwater plan with respect to this development?
Yes, I did.
And by the way, Mr. Trinkus, in the course of your professional experience, do you represent both developers and groups in opposition to development?
Yes.
And after you reviewed the plans as reflected in your report, did you reach any conclusions as to whether the stormwater management plan with respect to this development adequately treats the stormwater generated on this site?
The plan does not adequately treat the stormwater from this site.
And in your opinion, will the lack of adequate stormwater treatment adversely impact the air, water, or natural resources of the state?
Yes, in particular, nitrogen from the runoff will affect species and wetland grasses within the tidal wetlands which border this site.
And what is your level of confidence in that opinion? Is it 100%?
It is 100%, and the reason for that is that nitrogen in stormwater only comes out or is reduced through saturated conditions. The two underground storage systems proposed by the applicant here are in upland areas. So the nitrogen is going to move down gradient following the slope towards the tidal wetland boundary and enter the tidal wetland boundary without being treated. It does not get treated by moving through the soil. It gets treated in a saturated zone where it goes through a process called denitrification, which primarily takes nitrate, which is the main aspect of total nitrogen that we're concerned about. And through the denitrification process, it releases as nitrogen gas and oxygen. But through a dry environment, that process does simply not occur.
And at my request, did you prepare a report with respect to your findings?
Yes, I did.
Can you just briefly run through your report for the benefit of the commission and the public?
Yes, very brief. It's submitted. The stormwater management plan basically has not changed since the prior application. Some of the issues that I raised then of information shown in a narrative form on the plan, but not shown on the physical plan, still exist for two of the infiltration practices where they both call out an overflow orifice pipe, which is substantially above the tops of the gallery systems. Nothing is shown on the plan where this pipe is, and I believe at the last application, the land tech engineer was asked, well, where is this pipe? And he said, well, it must be there somewhere. Well, it's not there. That's the short answer. Furthermore, in the 2024 DEP Stormwater Quality Manual, which again is a guidance document, it is not a mandate, it is not a regulation. It is a guidance document to assist engineers to design systems to address water quality. DEP has put a line in there that basically says, if you hold the water quality volume within your practice, it will magically treat all the pollutants and meet the DEP standards that they're looking for. And that statement is not supported by science. I recently was presenting at what's called the American Society of Civil Engineers Environmental Water Resources Congress. And I asked three sitting professors, one at New Hampshire, one at Penn State, and one from a coastal group in California, who were really expertise. They all have PhDs. They've all done a tremendous amount with stormwater, whether that statement of simply providing a volume equates to treatment. And the unanimous answer from all three of them was no, it doesn't. And a quick analogy why it doesn't work is if these were, say, dry detention ponds. Per the DEP manual, a dry detention pond has a moderate sediment removal and low removal rates for nitrogen and phosphorus. So the practice itself does not treat water very well. So it doesn't matter how much water you may hold in that particular practice, you can never achieve the removal rates that DEP is looking for. And that basically goes along with any of these practices, especially the underground gallery systems. The issue we raised last time, and it's the same issue here, is in the hydrologic model of the drawdown calculation, which is an overly simplistic calculation looking at how fast the water will drain out of these systems, used a infiltration rate of 1.02 inches per hour, which is what's known as a Rawls rate for sandy loam soils. Yet the test pit data by Land Tech is all a silt loam. The infiltration rate, again, from the Rawls table of 10.2 in the DEP manual is 0.27 inches. That's about 26% of what they used. According to their response to my letter, they've now modeled it at 0.3. But the Rawls rates are from 1982, over 40 years ago, and these rates for infiltration of soils are a national average. And national averages don't really have much bearing on any particular place. You have to do soil testing and infiltration tests. In the response, it is stated that, well, the manual specifically explicitly allows you to use the Rawls rates. And actually what the manual says on page 183 is that they may be used. And a silt loam, while the Rawls rate calls it out as a Class B soil, where the manual says you don't have to do infiltration testing, in digging thousands of test pits over 40 plus years of practice, silt loams generally are a Class C soil, which would require on-site infiltration testing to be done at or below the bottom of all of these gallery systems to prove that you will actually infiltrate water. And whatever rate you may achieve with that field testing, you can only use 50% of it in the model. So we don't have adequate testing here. There's also a greater potential impact in the construction of these level spreaders. Based on the detail on the plan, the level spreader is 24 inches in width with a 7-inch concrete curb on the downhill side that's a cast-in place curb. So you have to excavate on the downhill side at least a foot, if not 2 foot, to allow your concrete contractor to be able to put in the forms for the curb in order to pour it in place. So the limit of disturbance is likely, a foot or two closer to the tidal resource than was actually shown on the plan.
That was not called out in the plans, correct?
That is correct. Additionally, in their response, they make reference to their treatment train approach, which if we look at the larger system, which is behind the main building, you have catch basins in the parking lot, you have an online hydrodynamic separator, and you go into this large underground Caltech system. The online separator is very poor for removing total suspended solids at only about 29%, contrary to what the manufacturer may tell you, based on field data, modern data from both the New Hampshire Stormwater Center and the American Society of Civil Engineers BMP database. UNH says it's 29%. The BMP database of an average of online to offline systems is 38%. So both very low, not anywhere close to the 80 or 85% the manufacturer will represent. And again, as it has not been proven by infiltration tests that these systems will infiltrate the water, you can't claim the removal rates associated with it. If the silt loam is very slow draining, you're going to have, basically a pool sitting in here, because the way the applicant has designed their outlet structures is the outlet pipe from their manholes going to the level spreader is almost at the top of the either gallery system or the Cultex system. So these systems could very well be completely full of water after one rainstorm. And if you get a subsequent rainstorm, that storage isn't there. But the bottom line is that, the language in the DEP manual, which simply says provide a volume and these magical treatment things occur, is again not supported by science in the stormwater world. So there will be increased nutrient loads, primarily nitrogen, which will affect the coastal environment here. And there may be other metals and hydrocarbons that could also be discharged. It's important to understand that all of the pollutants, whether it's nitrogen, phosphorus, metals, or hydrocarbons, can come both in particulate and soluble forms. And soluble forms are migratory in the groundwater. They don't attach to things, they simply move through the groundwater to a down gradient resource. And that's likely what will happen in this case, but nitrogen will definitely not be treated prior to reaching the tidal wetland boundary.
Question. And Mr. Tracus, once again, your opinion is your level of certainty, the likelihood of that outcome is 100%.
Of impacts due to nitrogen, yes, it is.
I have no further questions.
All right, let's Randolph, Corsillo, and Harrison.
Mr. Trinkus, who issues the permit for the site and reviews the stormwater design, determining whether it meets the criteria in order to construct this building?
That would be, my experience, your municipal engineering department. So the Fairfield Engineering Department.
Qualified answer, or is that a certain answer?
That's your answer.
That's the answer. In my experience in working in many towns in the state, it's the municipal engineering department that signs off on stormwater management plans.
So the issues you raised, in order to basically build this building, will need to be addressed prior to issuing any building permit and reviewed and approved by the town engineer. Is that correct?
Actually, no. I believe it's been my experience doing land use that I have to provide a design that I can prove works today. I know it has been the policy of the Fairfield Engineering Department on several applications to allow soil testing to be done after this commission has approved a project. And that always raises an issue is what happens if the soil testing is not suitable? Now you have an approved project without a stormwater management system that will work. In my professional opinion, it has to be demonstrated now before this commission.
Can we let him finish his answer, please? I can't hear him. You're over speaking him.
I didn't ask my question.
Can we hear him finish answering the question before we interrupt him?
He's answering the question I didn't ask.
All
You didn't answer.
Enough. Thank you, please. Let's
Stop
not talk.
interrupting, Jeff.
I couldn't hear it either.
I couldn't hear a word.
Everybody's interrupting now. Please stop. Commissioner Randolph.
I don't think I didn't ask my question clearly. In order for this project to be built, will a design need to be approved that meets the town engineer's who's a licensed engineer's, will it need to meet his approval?
Yes, and that decision should be done before your commission approves the overall site plan.
And if we make that a condition of the approval, will that be a safety guide rail to assure that nothing unsafe is constructed?
I've had a mixed bag of that. I have seen projects where that's been done and then what was proposed didn't work. and it changed the whole project. In some cases, it may work, other cases, it may not.
I'm not,
That's
let
his
me,
answer.
yeah, he didn't answer my question.
Well, I think he answered it to the best of his ability at this point.
If we make it a condition of approval, the town engineer's approval as a condition of approval of this project, will that satisfy your concerns?
Only if all of the required testing is done to clearly demonstrate that the system will function as it's supposed to.
Okay.
Hard to understand. Commissioner Corsaw.
Just one clarifying question, Mr. Trinkus. In your report, comment 4 ends with stating that the statement that's referencing in the CTD 2024 Stormwater Manual is not supported by documentation in the field. That you're saying that what is in the manual in reference to that particular section is not supported by evidence. It's not that that's not a, I'm sorry, that's not a about the applicant, that's about the DEP manual itself.
What's in the manual itself, that language is not supported by science.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Harrison.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Turnhouse, that you were interrupted. I was trying to understand you. But I did have a question. Would we need another study for the effect of Old Post Road if traffic is rerouted? And I'm not very clear on.
I'm not a traffic engineer, so I would defer from answering that question. That's not my area of expertise.
Civil engineer. Trinkus, civil engineer. Stormwater, excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm asking probably the wrong expert. I was just curious because I did go down to that area during a few various times of the day, night, and I was a little concerned about the traffic.
Okay. Anything for Mr. Trinkus?
I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Braun.
Is there an increase in impervious surface from this development from where it is now?
I would have to look at the stormwater report. I don't know that number offhand. I think that would be a question for the applicant.
Okay. And I just have a couple of questions from your report. There's, I'm looking just rapid fire number 2. It says no pipe is shown in the overflow orifice. What does that mean, and what is the problem from that?
If your planner could pull up sheet C 2.0 on the screen and zero in on the smaller stormwater system, we can show you the note and that there's no pipe.
Is the smaller one that's the one that's closer behind the building, or the one that's like uphill?
It's uphill. It's kind of between the parking garage and Ash Creek.
It's near Shoreham Village Drive, near that end of it, right?
Yes.
Pulling that up now. Why don't you explain why that's a problem?
Well, it's erroneous information on the map, and in my experience, if there's something like this, it begs a question: what else is not correct on the plans?
And if there's no pipe, do you have to have a pipe there? Why do you need a pipe there?
If the applicant designed it, I don't know, but you'll see this. You can see the smaller gallery system, and if you look in the gray part of the building where it says INF-1. The bottom line there says 6-inch overflow orifice equals 13.0 feet. When you look at the elevations of the storm trap system, the bottom is at 8.4. They're 3 feet high, so that puts it 11.4. 6 inches of stone on top of the system puts you basically, at 12 feet. And so this overflow pipe is a foot above the system. And if you look at this detail, and I've looked at it last time, even the pipe from the roof drains does not connect to the gallery system. And then you simply have the one outlet pipe that comes out in the upper right-hand corner to a black circle, which is the manhole, which goes to the level spreader. There is no overflow pipe shown. Now,
Mr.
the
Trinkus.
applicant in their response says, well, it's an overflow grate. Well, there's still nothing shown.
What is the problem from all of that?
I have no idea what the purpose of it is. And again, it begs the question that there's information on here that either isn't relevant or we don't know exactly how something else is going to work.
And would it be proper to simply discharge overflow stormwater at that location in that manner?
No. Roof runoff is not, from a commercial building such as this, is not clean. Residential roof water is relatively clean, but large buildings such as this, you get 40% of our nutrient loads, nitrogen and phosphorus, via atmospheric deposition. It just falls out of the air, both during a dry day like today or a rainy day. It sits on the roof, and when it rains, it's flushed off the roof. And that's why you have to treat the roof runoff from commercial structures.
Thank you. And there's a couple of places in your report where you mention that there's not enough storage capacity because of certain things, like in number 5, you say something is above the crushed stone, the invert, the pipe, number 6, it says the entire cultic would be filled to the top. This will reduce the available storage capacity within the system when the lower infiltration rate is used for the silt loam. What does that mean, and what is the result? Does it mean?
In what I reviewed, the applicant used a rate for sandy loam of 1.02 inches per hour. There, what that means is that over an hour, 1 inch of water in the bottom of the system would, in theory, infiltrate into the ground. However, the test pits call out a silt loam, and the infiltration rate in the same table in the manual is 0.27 inches, which is roughly 26% of what they use of 1.02. So if it's truly a silt loam and has a much smaller infiltration rate, it's going to take way longer to drain into the soil than what the applicant assumed. According to their response, they have remodeled this systems, or both systems, using a 0.3 inch per hour, perhaps in response to my comment. But again, that's taken from these Rawls rates, which are 4-year-old, national averages. And I will tell you, having dug test pits, soil can vary tremendously on a given site. That's why we always do soil testing, for both stormwater systems and septic systems. You can't make assumptions like that.
So didn't they do test pits to know what would
They
happen?
did deep test pits, but they did not do infiltration tests, which is what the manual is wanting you to do.
So what is the result then if it drains too slowly into the earth below the infiltrator galleries? What happens then?
Well, if you have, say, back-to-back storms, and over the past couple of weeks, we've had numerous days of that. If these don't drain down as quickly as the applicant assumed, when you get a subsequent storm event, you may not have the storage in here for the runoff that's now being directed to them, which would likely increase the flows out of the system without providing the adequate treatment.
And what happens then? It flows over in sheet flow down to the wetland?
It goes to the level spreader and then would go down the slope towards the tidal wetland boundary.
And does the level spreader do any treatment, or does it just disperse water?
It disperses water. It's not a treatment device.
Thank you.
Mr. Trinkus, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems as if not the entirety of your report and your analysis, certainly the vast majority of it is based on the 2024 Connecticut Deep Stormwater Management Manual, correct?
Many of my comments are, refer to the manual, but many of them are based on my own design experience of designing similar systems, to function properly.
There's a lot of we've had this back and forth before, and I'll more for Attorney Green, I think now, about what this commission can do with respect to engineering criteria and design elements. In what was it, our Beach Street decision, we initially denied that application citing sightlines as being one of them. There was inadequate sightlines. Historical was there too, but we don't need to worry about that. Superior Court had come down to us and said, and overturned our denial at that point, saying basically that this commission is a limited jurisdiction. We can only really review and decide what's in our regulations or what's been granted to us by statutory authority.
Has to be within the jurisdiction of the commission.
It has to be through regulations. They were specific and they said, if you don't have the regulations,
Has to be a matter that's within the, right, a matter that to be decided by the commission.
when we specifically were at least the Superior Court was affirmed by the Connecticut Supreme Court. We're talking about the sight lines. We said we went by what we thought was industry standards at the time. No, hold on. Let me finish this first. We thought we were going by industry standards at the time, and we used, I forget whatever expert at the time. And the court had said to us, you have to have specific regulations for these types of safety standards, or it has to be something that's more uniformly applied. We cited the fact that we didn't have sightline regulations in our regulations, sightline standards in our regulations as a basis to overturn us.
Yeah.
We don't have engineering criteria or standards in our regulations.
We do, I believe that there is some language in, I'm going to say in section 25 on special permits and the general standards on special permits that do speak to some of those factors.
Okay, but I'm certainly not
Attorney Levy can help me with that.
That would be helpful. Because I mean, certainly not the 2024 stormwater
It's
management
not within, that's not something that this commission enforces.
or adopted.
So Mr. Trinkus
And
made.
certainly not, but certainly not, though, it seems like the town engineer who is tasked with reviewing all the engineering criteria that come through and does so in a consistent manner in his professional or her professional opinion.
Here's what would be very helpful. If we can call up the slide that the applicant showed last, which is slide 18 of their deck. I think it would be.
But if you're going to go to the 830G criteria,
I'm going to,
okay.
and it has that language.
But that was an 830G we had on Beach Street, and they basically told us, even though we were going down that substantial safety route with what I thought was pretty clear industry standards on 830G on sightlines, because we didn't have them enumerated in our regulations, we could not apply them.
You pose a good question, but that's why Mr. Trinkus said that it has been interpreted to be first of all, it has been interpreted to be a guideline. But he indicated that based on his training and experience and education, that he went above and beyond that and offered an opinion from which this commission could make a finding based on public health and safety.
I know, but my point is, in the Beach Street decision, we had an expert who opined on sightlines.
There was an issue with that testimony, and I think the larger part of that opinion dealt with the impact on historic resources.
Yeah, but that, of course, but I mean, there's no doubt about that, but the court was pretty clear when we were talking about sightlines. And I remember there being an issue on the expert, but we, as you always say, we can, and you're right in saying it, we as the fact finder and jury made what we thought was a credible determination. And it wasn't as if the court said we were arbitrary and capricious. Well, I guess that was kind of what they're saying, but they were more specific in saying, you don't have the safety standards enumerated in our regulations, can't apply them.
Correct, except this is an 8-30G, so it gets a little bit.
That was too.
I know.
Okay,
I'm well aware,
I remember you were, I know you were in the opposition there too.
and I went to the
Yeah,
appellate.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could just, put
Please.
in my sense on the comment. In my experience, having done several projects in Fairfield, dealt with stormwater. One is obviously Garden Homes is on Bronson Road. We also had Garden Homes on Fairchild, Dean Cardemus's project on Black Rock, and Dean's project on Pansy Road. In all those cases, we had to fully satisfy your engineering department before they would issue a memo to your commission saying, we're good with the stormwater. So there are standards in the Fairfield engineering regulations, which when I do a site plan, not only do I have to comply with zoning, I have to comply with, your engineering standards as an example. And in all of those cases, we did not get a sign off from engineering until they were fully satisfied with the design, where then they said, to your commission, okay, the stormwater is acceptable.
No, fair point, but that was the town engineer making those decisions and not this commission. I just wanna, we've been having this back and forth in a while and I just think it's important to put that out there. As far as what our regulations are, what our authority is legally. Commissioner Braun.
I was just gonna say that, Mr. Trinkhouse, it's your opinion that the system has to work and you have to prove, somebody has to prove to us, our commission, that the system will work, that the stormwater system will work. Because if it doesn't work, it's gonna send pollutants down into a tidal water body known as Ash Creek and groundwater. So there's a difference between what we do and what the engineering department does. The engineering department is only advisory to us. They don't issue permits. Okay, they need to sign off to get a building permit, but there's a difference between what they do and what we do, right? What is that difference? Because otherwise we're sitting here doing nothing. Why are we here? We must have a role, right?
Yeah, well, I want to get to that. That's why I'm asking for page 18 of the deck. Well, we can, it's here. Better pull it out.
Yeah, but page 18.
And I don't know if you.
Is it just the standard of 830J?
Yeah, but I think it's important.
No, all right.
I'm happy to pull it, but page 18 isn't
Whatever
the.
the last deck you showed, that was
He's asking,
From today,
need for affordable housing in Fairfield.
from today, yeah, I'll pull that.
thank you.
So I don't know if you have more questions for Mr.
I
Trent.
think we're good with Mr. Trinkus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm going to be short, and again, I don't want to be taxed for the questions.
No, you're right on time, absent the questions.
So look, here we are. And we're faced with the largest 8-30G development that this town has ever seen. The largest application that this commission has ever seen. I've talked to a lot of people, including people in this room. No one that I've spoken to is opposed to the notion of having an affordable development there. It is the size of the structure. It is the bulk of the structure that is driving this. In fact, someone said to me tonight, they don't care if it's 100% affordable. The building is too big. You heard Mr. Barbaras, who questions whether you can have 478 units on this site safely from a traffic standpoint. You've got the public here, and I'm gonna try to save the commission the trouble. But the public is here because they are concerned with traffic. They're concerned with environmental impacts. They're concerned with public safety, public health. They're concerned with the character of the town. They're concerned with the character of their neighborhood. They're concerned with the urbanization of this town. Some people have a nostalgic image of this town. They're here. Some people feel there are better uses for the site. And some people think it's an overdevelopment. And some people think that Fairfield is becoming overdeveloped. So I guess I'd ask anyone opposed to this application for any of those reasons to just stand up so we can get it out there. So it's here.
Well, do it for that reason, but that reason alone is not enough to deny the application.
Well, that's a legal argument,
Wait
which I would
a
like to
second.
make my position known on.
All right, thanks.
Randolph, okay?
And the public
Legal factual argument.
doesn't feel like it is being heard by this commission. And the purpose of this testimony that we offered tonight, so that we can avoid what I know we're going to hear. What we're going to hear during the decision on this is we're going to hear you saying, we're really, sorry, and we're really concerned about the impacts on the neighborhood, but our hands are tied. And the point is, we have provided you tonight with the tools you need. And you can't just kick the can down the road. It says right there, it must be approved unless a planning and zoning commission proves that the decision is necessary to protect substantial interests in health, safety, or other matters which the commission may legally consider. And that goes to your point, Commissioner Noonan. I understand that you may legally consider Such public interest must clearly outweigh the need for affordable housing, and the commission must demonstrate that those public interests cannot be protected by reasonable changes to the affordable housing development. And the point is, there's a 3-minute delay getting out of the site. 3 minutes. And it doesn't, we brought you the expert, but you don't have to be an expert to know that when you need to get somewhere and there's 140 cars trying to get out of a development in the morning, if you have to wait 3 minutes, people behave irrationally. And that was Mr. Bugaris's point. And to simply say, oh, we'll just have everyone take a right turn. Well, the applicant didn't think of it. It's not in the plan. There is no analysis. And to just say, oh, we'll just impose a condition. Well, why would you do that? There's no basis for you to do that. And to say, we don't have to look at the traffic because it goes to OSTA. We don't have to look at the engineering because it goes to the town engineer. Well, why are you here?
Thank you.
Why are you here? You have to wait 5 minutes. How many people are sick of it?
You know what, though? I'm gonna push back on that. I'm a little disappointed. We sit up here, do the best that we can legally. I have no doubt that this is a big project that nobody is a big fan of. We sit up here in good faith. We work our butts off for a volunteer job that I've been doing for weeks now. I put myself out here. I've been on this commission for 10 years. Very thankless job that I'm not asking for thanks for. But for you to sit here and tell us that we're not hearing you because we're not agreeing with you is totally disingenuous and frankly childish. I'm very just disappointed that because you're not getting the way you want, that we're not listening to you. I'm a little disappointed by that.
No.
We appreciate what you do.
Well,
We
that's
see that
fine.
you're
I
volunteering.
appreciate that, but I think that was a step too far, that we're not listening to you.
I disagree.
Well, that's my position and that's fine.
Can I say my?
No, I'm
position?
still speaking.
Okay.
We do our best with what we're allowed to do under the law. And your own experts are telling us that if we do right-hand turns, that would be a reasonable accommodation.
He said.
I heard what he said in about the extra stuff, but he answered the question that was posed to him and gave, unfortunately, the record that's going to be a problem for you up at the court. And I got an engineer who's telling me I can really rely upon 2024 engineers. That's not in our regulations. And my own engineer, town engineer, is signing off on it. We'll get that confirmation as well. So yes, it's a huge project. I don't think anybody was particularly happy with. But that's not my discretion here. I'm sitting here under the law. And everything that you're saying is very pandering to neighbors, but I don't think is very effective as from a legal standpoint as to what we're doing. And I would appreciate maybe a consideration that we're operating here as good faith as we can, as diligently as can, in volunteer capacity, that maybe a little more respect would be nice, that we're not listening because we're doing our best and we're not agreeing with you.
It's not
Let the
that.
people talk then. Let
not
the people
bad.
talk. That's why we're
Because
here.
it's his turn, he's the public and representing people right
May I
now.
make a statement? Because all I hear from some of my fellow commissioners is, we have no role. Engineering might have an opinion, we don't have to do anything. DEP might have an opinion, we don't have to do anything. That's nonsense. We're not potted plants sitting here doing nothing. We have to decide if it's safe. I don't care what the DOT says. We decide if it's safe. We don't wait for some future project to come down the pike that might fix it in the future that may never happen. We have to decide right now if it's safe. And there's evidence in the record right now that's substantial that says it's not safe. We don't redesign a whole project on a condition of approval. There's no evidence. There's no analysis done of an alternate route on the Old Post Road, having 143 cars go down that way. There's no analysis. We don't have any basis to say, do it on a condition of approval, do a whole new, are we gonna accept more new data on rebuttal? No, there's no basis for us to do that. So I completely disagree that we're sitting here with no role at all, except, to rely on other entities that are only advisory to us. I think we have to make that
Well,
decision.
then I think you need to reread.
The evidence is in the record.
I think you need to reread the Superior Court. Regulations we can't apply.
We do not have to have it in our regulations to carry out safety on safety.
Decision.
We have to make this a safe project. It doesn't have to be spelled out in a regulation. They need a wildlife survey. They have to follow the 2024 manual. They have to have a regulation about sightline. That doesn't have to be in our regulations. I think
urge
Beach
you to
Road was a
read,
specific case.
Next time I'll bring the decision with me and I'll quote it.
Take a look at it.
Okay,
Think further.
Yeah.
but,
Let him finish.
We have,
It's all gonna be moot because the law was passed today. Okay.
we can only deal with what's here, but I will just say that there's a lot of frustration on both sides. And I don't mean to minimize the efforts of this commission, the time you've put in, the volume of business you're confronted in, and the circumstances we all find ourselves in. But I will say that based on the comments, for example, and I know, keeping matter. We've incorporated the record of the mixed-use development. For the moment, I would like to incorporate the videos into the record because we don't have transcripts. Of that record because I think it's important what was said. And for the moment, I would like to incorporate the videos that are available, that are posted on the town website. And we can work out, if we end up in an appeal, we can work out with the court substituting transcripts later, but I think.
I assumed if you're gonna incorporate the record, it's whatever, everything literally that was done last time is incorporated here. We have transcripts or videos.
There's no
whatever.
transcript yet of this, and I'm sure the record's being assembled.
I don't believe that the transcript for this first meeting has been completed by our.
But the record is
Transcriber.
incorporated, whatever the means is, right? I mean,
So yes, there is a high level of frustration. I don't mean to offend the commission, but I stated it that my sense from talking to the public is that they don't feel heard on these. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is hard feelings about neighbors who are impacted by this. Maybe you're
it's
right.
not just hard feelings, though. I understand the frustration that they're feeling, and I understand the impact that the town, that they will be feeling directly. But
On this
you
application,
tell me if that's, that's what we have to go by, and plus the Superior Court case that I cited as well. So
let's talk about the mechanics and let's talk about the options here. To suggest that you are simply kicking the can down the road to every town department, I think Mr. Trinkus was correct. The town engineer should be opining before and not as a condition of approval. On some of the traffic, that should be done before so that everyone has a fair shot and a fair discussion. There was an application last week where the soil testing was done after the public comment was closed. Where does that happen? Where does that happen? And how do our engineers get an opportunity to comment on that? And in this very application on the mixed use, one of the members of this commission wasn't even aware that Mr. Barbaras had testified to an 87-second delay with that development. Now we're at 3 minutes. It doesn't take an expert to know that this is unsafe. Now, mechanically, if this commission denies this application, and Mr. Fallon can talk to you about it, the applicant has a chance to refile. They do. And I don't love that because I'd like to see it denied and I'd like to see it go away. And I'd like to see a reasonably scaled development that everyone is tolerably unhappy with be built here. Or happy. But if this commission denies the application, because the information you need is not here, and we have provided you with the tools, we have provided you with substantial evidence in the record upon which you can deny this application. The applicant, if they think it's wrong, the applicant has the ability to refile. And if the applicant thinks they can show that a 478 unit development can get traffic that wants to go westbound or southbound, however you want to term it. And if they can do it, then they can come with a resubmission, I suppose, and we'll go through this again on the resubmission. And if they can show that their stormwater system actually works, then they'll have a chance to replete it. But if the commission is truly sincere in the comments that you've made, we've worked hard to provide you with this information for this application. And no one likes this application, as you said. Even the applicant said this isn't their first choice. Everyone, no one likes this application because everyone knows, everyone in the room knows it is just too big.
Don't condition our sincerity on whatever outcome you want. Understand what I'm asking though? Are you telling us, you looked at us and said, you're gonna say this, you're gonna say this, you're not listening to us. I'm just asking you in the public not to condition on good faith, diligent, sincere efforts on whatever outcome you want.
All right.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I just want to say the public is absolutely heard. I know they are, and as is the applicant. Everybody gets a fair shot here. I have heard, disturbing things over the last several months that we don't properly plan as a commission. We don't do a number of things, or neighbors are NIMBY. I've heard that from commissioners' mouths, and I don't think that's fair. I think we have to do better, and I think everybody needs to feel that they are being heard and not ignored. I don't think those statements have been fair, and
Are you done, Attorney Green?
My favorite acronym now is NIMBY, but it's not in my backyard. It's now I must become involved. And there's a lot of people concerned with development and traffic in this town, and they're getting involved. That's all I have to say. I want to thank the commission for your generous allowing me to speak and giving me.
Give you as much time as you need.
I
can't.
But I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your understanding. I think everyone is feeling a lot of strain on this situation, and everyone's put in a lot of time and a lot of effort. I just want to reiterate, I don't mean to minimize the effort, the thought, and the fact that you are, doing a great job under difficult circumstances. But I think that I fairly have expressed frustration of
Fair enough.
some of the folks in this room. And I will say that everyone who wants to be heard this evening, it's 9:25. Unless you have, may I do public service announcement?
Still your time.
As you probably heard, this application is governed under 8-30G. It's a matter of substantial evidence and how properties are uniquely affected. Typically, it does involve expert testimony. I think the commission is really aware of everyone's feelings on this, and certainly if you want to speak, you should speak. But I think to a great degree, I think the commission knows.
And we've already, yes, I know there's been written submissions. If I haven't read them all yet, they will be read in the next few days anyways. We read all the submissions. Actually, the submissions I think are more helpful to me, and see them, read them quickly and come back to them as much as I can. So we're gonna move on to other members of the public. We're gonna get as far as we can. We're certainly not getting to Byro Street tonight, very least. Sorry, Attorney Bellis.
Well, I got to read a lot of my book. Are we excused? I have my team here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. At 9 o'clock, I should have said as much. If your curfew's at 10, we're not going.
Oh, I understand.
So we will probably, what else do we have on next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday. We have Churchill Road. Byro. 336 Commerce Drive, which at minimum has to be opened. 4180 Black Rock Turnpike, which also expires on the 21st.
For one previously expire on the 21st?
It does.
I guess we don't have to
Well,
open them next week. It could be the
When's
week
that?
after.
I believe that one already has an extension, but I can double check.
All right, we'll see. I mean, I guess the thought, Attorney Bellis, if you can talk to Emmeline, I expect we'll get to you next time.
No, I'll try to be quick and concise.
I'm not gonna be here,
No,
using myself from your
yeah,
application.
I understand that. So I'll be here for the next meeting on 10th, and we'll start with 108.
I don't know where, I mean, we may have some small matters to get before you, but.
Correct.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Okay, then, thank you very much.
Yep. Like to get to as much as we can. We may have to finish up here, but we'll say. Are there members of the public, we'll start in person that wish to be heard in this application? if you can please keep your comments germane to the issue. I'm going to, this is a 3-minute clock. I'm going to try and keep everybody to 3 minutes as best I can. Because we have a lot to get over and we have a decision that needs to be made by the 21st, which is a Saturday meeting. We have 2 weeks really to make a decision. So best you can get a queue going or an idea as to where it is. If you could just give your name and address. We don't have a microphone, so if you can please keep your voice up. If we don't get, we'll go as far as we can tonight. Anybody that wishes to submit written application after tonight might not be a bad idea. Feel free to sit, stand, whatever you feel comfortable. Gregory, whatever you feel comfortable.
If we're able to suppress public comment, we might be able to do rebuttal tonight, close this hearing, correct?
I would like to. I mean, that's to the extent that, like I said, I'll do my best to kind of move people along. This is 3 minutes. If we can please keep it to 3 minutes. And if you have further comments after 3 minutes, please submit it to us by writing via email. Good evening.
For Henny, 827 Riverside Drive, and thanks to the entire commission for the work you do. My only pushback, something jumped out at me when, I can't remember who it was, that LOSF is not a safety issue and inherently it isn't, but I live on Riverside Drive. I work in Shelton. I take Kearney over to the old Post Road and I got to kind of ginch across Post Road to the Peanut. Whether I leave at 7 or 8 and same coming back, it's a nightmare. Drivers do get unpleasant. It's human nature and I don't know what the fix is for stupid, but it's just a fact of my driving life. But the LOSF indicates severe congestion with long delays, breakdown in traffic flow, driver behavior degrades. There is spillback. I'm often kind of caught on the Post Road heading east as I'm trying to get to the roundabout. We do our best, but there isn't always a lot of cooperation. And when there's an incident on 95, there's even more traffic. So it is absolutely a safety issue. I've witnessed a couple of fender benders. They don't even bother getting out of the car. They just go, but I'm watching it. I have the yield. There is a stop sign. I think is that Grassmere? I forget, but it's where Bed Bath & Beyond, where that road dumps out. They have a stop sign. I have the, yeah. Anyway, so there's rear end angle crashes increase. I'm not even going to talk about pedestrians. They don't dare. So while LOSF is a congestion benchmark, it does contribute to safety hazards, particularly in commercial corridors like that Post Road with mixed traffic, frequent turns, and limited signalization. I can't speak to turning left or right. That's not my purview. I just know it's unpleasant now getting to and from that particular area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Batchelder from 175 Shoreham Village Drive. I'm 200 feet away from this property. And I just have to respond to last week saying that if the engineer stamps this, then it's fine because he has a license and he would not put that in jeopardy. I mean, looking at the drawings, it feels like they've just rushed them through. Part of the CAM application said that there's a 50-foot riparian buffer. So from wetlands to the building, it's 65 feet. In that 65 feet, we also have the emergency road. So we are not going to be planning natives in the emergency road. And it just feels like there are a lot of things in the CAM report that weren't carefully considered. It happened in the last time, but we just didn't bring it to your attention. It says that this one significantly reduces the impervious surfaces on page 9. This one increases them dramatically over what is there. Then each building, it also says, will have its own retention system. There is one major retention system for both right on the edge of the creek. And it also says that it shows on the landscaper's plan that a huge locust is staying, but the locust tree is right underneath this huge detention center system. So it's going. And then the excavation, the retention center is 5 feet deep. It's 4 feet from the edge of the slope down to the marsh. There's no way an excavator can get in there and dig with that close to the marsh, that deep, without wrecking the edge of the slope that goes right to the marsh. I say that as I'm an architect. I've dealt with a lot of sites. I've been doing this business for 40 years. And so you can't physically dig straight down. So then I have two requests that if you do approve this, the conditions to think about. That soil testing be done in the big field where all the water from the motel drains down the hill because there's no retention center. Right now, that lawn acts like a rain garden. For 60 years, it's taken the runoff from the parking lot. So that will be the oils, the PCP dust from the brakes. And that's a lot of years to accumulate something. And I would like that you condition this on environmental testing on that soil because before it goes into piles and dust and into our neighborhood. The second request that I'm asking is, and have discussed this with some of the neighbors, is a 6-foot fence. The landscape architect is proposing screening be arborvitae and a lot of arborvitae between the nearest houses and this site. But in our neighborhood, arborvitae don't survive unless you're spraying every week. The deer just devour them. So the fact that there are arborvitae between the houses and this huge building is not really screening to us. So at least a fence, if they keep them alive until they're 10 feet tall, the fence will cover the bottom 6 feet and they might actually grow taller. And listening to the traffic engineers, I think we all know that turning right only out of this side is kind of a crazy idea. The majority of people who leave will be going, and it was testified in the last one, will want to turn left. If we send everybody down to the Old Post Road to make a right, they are just going to be making a left in just as dangerous situation. That when people want to come out of the Old Post Road and go to Stop and Shop, it's not, that's where I would say twice a month I see an accident. So it is a safety concern that I don't think it's a simple answer. And as for the DOT fixing things in the years to come, I went to the public presentation of the relocation of Kings Highway to be across from this entrance. And that will be starting soon. They expect next year. The first part starting this month and the next part starting then. And Miss Jane, the town engineer, when we asked about the peanut and the circle and all of that, she said there is no time frame for that. That has such a big budget that we were like 10 years. She's like, there's just no time frame for it. They don't know when they would get that 25, it's projected 25 to $30 million. And so if DOT is going to force them to make it safe, they're not going to pay for a peanut. Nobody's going to pay for a peanut. And the traffic light before, when they were starting in 2019, this whole traffic study, the state was saying no traffic light in this location. So they can change their mind. You can put a traffic light, but it'll just back the traffic up into the circle. So I don't know that there's an easy answer on traffic. Traffic light, I don't believe will do it, but I'm not an expert. We would need an expert to testify that the traffic light would actually work. And I'd really like to see the retention system shown to work, particularly on this site, which is full of bedrock. It's between.
Finish up, please.
Okay.
No, finish what your thought is.
It's between the bedrock and the marsh. And there is not a lot of room for error. If the system they have in there now does not work, there aren't a lot of other places to put it.
Where did you want the soil testing in the parking lot?
It's right now, we call it the big field. It's where they used to have comedy club shows.
Thank you. If you have anything else, please submit it to email.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
She can submit all those in email.
Ma'am, if it's possible, if you can submit all that comments to email, that would be helpful. Is what Commissioner Randolph is asking.
Hi, my name is Mark Sieber. I live at 25 Concord Street, which is right off of Riverside Road, very close to this location. So, again, thank you to the commission for hearing us out here. I would argue that this intersection already has several unresolved safety concerns, right? And a couple of things that haven't been pointed out here yet is the speeding. right? So that doesn't happen as much at peak times because everybody's backed up there, but during non-peak times, especially in the evening, I mean, I've seen guys driving 50, 55 miles an hour from, eastbound traffic, right past there. So, that happens all times during the day, and, there's no way to control that, right? I mean, and you get such a high volume. I've been here for 12 years now, and I've seen probably double the traffic go through there, in the last 12 years. So you've got, a highly complex intersection. You've got pedestrians actually that are coming down the sidewalk that are crossing those 2 lanes of traffic. Maybe they get to the median, maybe they make it across all 3 lanes. I mean, even today when I was driving here, I saw 2 people crossing from Circle Diner across the street, and they realized that they misjudged the speed of the car and they started running across the street. I see that quite a bit, actually. So you've got pedestrians, you've got a bus stop right there across from the liquor store. So you got a lot of people walking down to the bus stop, from the bus stop, you've got bikers. There's just a lot of things going on right there. And I mean, I've been driving for, a long time, and I always do triple takes at that intersection because it's hard to judge the speed. And given the 3 lanes there, it's tricky. And then I have 2 daughters, new drivers, they're 17 years old. I mean, I'm always telling them, like, girls, make sure you stop completely, take double, triple takes there, because for young drivers, it's especially tricky. So, the other, I think, Mr. Olinsky's traffic study, we didn't talk about speed. I think the average speed that I saw flash up on his report was like 40 miles an hour, which is, above the speed limit there. And again, I see guys doing 50 or 60 sometimes speeding. And then, I think we're all sort of realizing that this left turn out of the hotel is dangerous, right? That's a disaster waiting to happen. That's a T-bone accident, which could be fatal, or there's pedestrians there that could be hit. So how do we reroute that in a safer way? Well, if we have everybody go right, which is a minority of the people that are going to be there, it's kind of silly. It's frustrating. People will still try to go left. But then if you try to reroute the people that are turning left down to Old Post Road, I'll tell you what will happen there. Because there's a stop sign there, and you've got 2 cars that are waiting there. Already you've blocked that egress. You got 3 or 4 cars during peak traffic, and you've got people coming back from heading east, back west, heading on Old Post Road. And you've got all these tenants trying to exit. You're just moving the traffic problem from Post Road to Old Post Road. It will be a disaster. And there's no place you can widen there because of the wetlands and because of the residential property. So I would like the opportunity, if we're going to rethink this, I would like the opportunity to respond to whatever design changes must be made in order to make this a safer intersection. I'm not comfortable conceding that whatever design changes the developer comes up with is satisfactory. I could see all sorts of different, problems happening. We're just not envisioning it yet because we're not looking at that exact, proposal. So I just think there's no simple solution. The only other thing is to put a traffic light there. The state doesn't want to do it. I don't want to see it there. It's just going to back everything up. So I go back to Mr. Green's point, like, I'm for this development, but not at this scale, right? We've said this again and again. I've been saying this since January. This is too much. I don't think there's any way that you can accommodate this additional volume of tenants and traffic at this location now, given all the safety concerns I just described, no matter what you do with different potential solutions, that I still would like the opportunity to review, because I do think it is a significant safety issue. I do think that, like, there's such a significant safety issue there. I want the opportunity to see what these other alternative proposals are for redirecting that traffic flow, because I don't think it's going to solve this.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hi.
Good evening.
Last name is Nolfo on High Street. I'm not a mathematician or an engineer or anything, but I've driven through town to pick up a kid from school or camp or whatever. People blow the stop sign at Old Field Road, or Old Post Road, that stop sign.
Please repeat your name and your address.
Last name is Nolfo, it's High Street.
in my
First name?
house. Huh?
First name?
Jessica? Yeah, I've driven around town at all hours. I'm a night owl, so I'll go to pick up something or drop something off in the FedEx or whatever. People blow the stop sign at Old Post Road leading into that area. There are people that turn left. There are kids that race. He was talking about speeding. I've seen people do 80. I have a dash cam with someone doing 80 on that road. They blew by me. I looked and they were past me. I was doing like, I don't know, 30, 35 or something. I think it's insanely dangerous. And I think the math that the first engineer presented, I'm not a mathematician, but if you account for 487 apartments, let's say each person has a car, that's 487 cars. They don't all work on the same schedule. Plus there's Amazon, there's Uber, there's Lyft, there's birthday parties, there's babysitters, cleaners, home health aides. Those are additional cars. On High Street, one day it took me a half an hour to back out because of all these developments that are going up and the multifamily housing on Country Road. You can't get out. I sat there for 25 minutes to get out of the driveway onto a street that people are walking dogs and kids up and down the street. So it's insanely unsafe. And the engineer, the first engineer, he should get a lawn chair and sit there at the circle for a day and just see. And the people on roller skates, people getting off the bus, people on little scooters, little Vespas, they go the wrong way. They run across. I've seen teenagers run across to the McDonald's at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's extremely dangerous. And plus there's that triangular block across the street that no one is accounted for in the drawings. And people are going to use that to go up and over and down and behind the Bed Bath and Beyond to get to the train station or go to the Whole Foods and the Home Depot. And that triangle is an accident. I avoided 3 accidents there in the past month because people do a U-turn or they go around or they don't realize that people are coming the other way. It's a snarl and it's a knot and the state has never dealt with it. The signs at the circle, it's not anyone here's fault, obviously, it's a state road. There's no signs for 95. They go over that thing by Bed Bath and Beyond. People are in the right lane, it becomes one lane and they zip across the people getting off the highway. That's just that little zone, that little area, I avoid it. And I'm sure most people in town avoid it. And it's just, I don't know. They should just hire more cops and, you know, EMTs if they build something of this size. They should cut it in half because it's going to become Airbnb, it's going to be a dorm, and it's going to be like a snarl in an area that people that are in town are, you know, dealing with. And the police are dealing with. It's already 1,500 accidents in the past year. Add 1,000 people potentially. 487 apartments. So the math was off. The math was way off. That is not 100 some trips per day or per hour or whatever his math was. Comes out to 3,000 or 4,000 trips per day. If you account for all the ordering and the food and the Uber and the DoorDash and the Lyft. It's just, somebody needs a mathematician. I'm not the mathematician, but a mathematician could figure this out. So anyway, sorry, I'm a little nervous, but you know, anyway, I've avoided accidents in that area. In the rain, it's completely sheer. You can't see. Someone was standing in the road waving down a taxi. I almost hit him. But where do you go? You know what I mean? Wearing all black. So I don't know. I just think the scale is inordinate. This thing would be perfect on top of the parking lot at the original Fairfield train station. Put it there, you know what I mean? Not that they would, but for 400, that's 1,000 people in that little knot. And you know, the trips per day, what if they go over the hill, Stop and Shop? Are they gonna cross the circle by foot to the Stop and Shop? To the Whole Foods, which is like a quarter of a mile away? No, they're gonna drive. And they're not gonna be all on the same schedule. Some people are gonna work from home. Some people are gonna use the community center and they're gonna have their like startup meeting in the community center. That's 10 more cars. In 3 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever, if it's 10 cars and they're all leaving at the same time to get to work at 9 o'clock, that's 30 minutes. The guy at the end of the line, he's waiting 30 minutes to get out of his complex. I don't know. I just think it's a math problem. And the design, you know, blends a little bit with Fairfield, but the scale for that area, it's inordinate. And 99% of the people are going to want to turn left. Without a light, to just hire more EMTs and cops to like clean up.
Finish up, please.
Yeah, I'm done. That's it.
Very much.
Thank you. We appreciate all your work. Everybody in the room does.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jody Eisman, 284 Andrassy. I just want to say, you know, I think working in government can be a very thankless job. And I don't think that it's personal. I think people want to be heard. And I really appreciate what everybody said because a lot of people are much more informed than I am. I will say, I live here, I work in Norwalk, I can't get through the town. As a matter of fact, I stopped working on Fridays because I can't get through. And I also was in an accident right by Witch Day a year ago. And it's so crowded, this guy wasn't paying attention. He, slammed me up against the retaining wall. Cause it's just packed, the people aren't paying attention and people drive too quickly. And so I just want to say, I think just because you can, doesn't mean you should. And it's like people said, it's just way too big. And, it's become very difficult. And that's why people think, we have taxation without representation. You're our representatives. It's like, who else do we go talk to? The town engineer? I mean, who are people supposed to talk to? Anyway, I appreciate everybody so knowledgeable. I'm not, but I can tell you it's impossible to drive in Fairfield now, and I can't imagine what it's like with, as the last woman just said, all the traffic that's gonna be here. It's just impossible. You just can't get through the town. And Fridays, forget it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Evening.
Evening, everybody. I'm Sean Kelly, 104 Shoreham Village Drive. Mainly in respect for all your time, I'm gonna keep this very brief. I did write a letter and I'd ask you to read it at your convenience. Their crash data goes to the east towards Belmont. It does not go to the west. I'm sorry, it goes to the west towards Belmont, but does not go to the east towards Shoreham Village Drive. That was probably my first slide that I gave on my letter. There was a fatality at Shoreham Village Drive. If you go to CT crash, which is also in my letter, it has the data that there was pedestrian fatality in 2017 there. The neighbors still remember it. There was also 2 bus accidents at the circle. I went and looked at the other 5 recent 830G applications that you gave to compare the crash data of pedestrian fatalities and bus accidents. This site is significantly worse than all of them. And I'd ask you to take a moment and look at that at your convenience. I also included the screenshots of the website from the police traffic reports for motor vehicle traffic reports between Grassmere and the circle. And it's a significant hotspot in this area compared to the rest of the town. And I'll let my rest of the time go to somebody else. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other member of the public in person wish to be heard? Good evening.
Hi. And thank you for everything you do. I'm Stephanie Caro, 247 Hunyadi Avenue. I kayak Ash Creek regularly. There are a lot of people who do that and live around Ash Creek, and I'm very concerned, in addition to all the other issues that have been raised tonight, I'm very concerned about that. I want to make sure that the development is not going to be harmful to the creek. I don't think that any development or any individual or individuals have the right to pollute the water that we all share and that we all need and that our wildlife needs. And I'm just asking for that to be really carefully looked at. I just don't believe that anybody has the right to do that. We have very precious little wetlands left in this country and in this area, and we need to preserve what we have. And it's absolutely vital to our environment that we do so. So that is all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Any other member of the public in person wish to be heard in this application?
I just say one thing. I'm not gonna be long. I just want to thank you. Eileen Wilhelm, Shoreham Village Drive. Been here almost every single meeting. We appreciate I can't even imagine the amount of hours that you people put in, the amount of work that you do. Can't imagine it. But this is an inflection point. You have to make the right decision. This town is a beautiful town. We live on the marsh. We have birds. The traffic is insane. You cannot get around that circle. Health issues, I know that's what it's about tonight, about safety and health.
but you have a tremendous responsibility. This is an inflection point. Too much is going on and you have to stop it. At some point, your responsibility is to stop it. So please, please do your last job and stop this tremendous thing. We're not against it. We want some kind of a beautiful thing. Can't do this. I mean, it's insane. Thank you very much for all your time, really.
You know,
Well, ma'am.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it too. But, sorry, can you just tell you about?
Sorry, yeah, your
My
name-
name is Carol Giacovelli. I live on Longview Avenue. If you come down my street, you look at what was Bed Bath and Beyond. So I am at that circle every 5 minutes. I raised my daughter here, 50 years, blah, blah. The other day, I was coming around the circle. I had McDonald's on my left. The storage unit place was in front of me. And somebody came across from the storage unit. And I was in the right lane where this lane is to yield. And this guy came into the other lane. And we're both going out and he's coming into that. And I was waiting for the screeches and there were horns beeping and blowing. But I mean, every minute there's something going on over there and it's just impossible. I understand something reasonable size. I don't understand why. I'm sure you're Fairfielders, why you're not upset about it. And that you're anxious for it. Just the size of it, if you could just tone that down, I think there would be less cars, obviously. And that's all I have. I have a lot, actually.
Thank you. Feel free to submit anything. Ma'am, come on up. Is there anybody else that wishes to be heard in person? Is there somebody else in the back that want to be heard? Just trying to get a sense of who else is left in person, then I'll just go to remote.
Annalise McKay, 218 East Lawn Street, Fairfield. I've been here for over 30 years. I've watched the neighborhoods change dramatically with a lot of building. We're talking about affordable housing. Small Cape Cods are being torn down daily. Large, shoehorned, replaced by very large homes where a Cape Cod once stood. I see 830G a flawed law. So many of these buildings are luxury buildings with a minute amount being for affordable housing. I would love to see affordable housing, but most of these buildings are not. And in 4 years, those apartments will no longer be affordable. I have grown children here who are trying to find a place to live, to rent. And it's not affordable. They both work full-time jobs. So I see this as a flawed law. That said, 478 apartments. How many of them will have children? 1 or 2 children. My children went to Sherman School. We sat 20 years ago in portable classrooms on back to school night where the ceilings were leaking. Those portables are still there. My daughter is 30 years old. What impact on the school systems and how they split up, every year that comes up where the kids are supposed to be sent to school and those district lines. Sherman, 400 children? What if every apartment has a kid in that apartment? Are they all gonna go to Sherman School? Or, I don't see that capacity is being addressed either. And that should be a concern as well. Many quality of life issues are impacted by such a large building. Thank you.
Anybody else in person? We have a queue for
We
remote.
have 3 speakers who would like to speak remotely. starting with Christine Rose, followed by Yuri Tepperman, and then lastly, Wendy Lean.
Ms. Rose, and if anybody else is joining remotely that wishes to be heard, please sign in. If you're joining by phone, please identify yourself at a certain point, at some point, excuse me. Ms. Rose, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for all you do. And what I'd like to say is,
Just
I
have
think
your
the,
address, please. Sorry, can we
yes,
just?
oh,
address-
Christine Rose, 368 Riverside Drive.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'll write all the comments down too, so you have it that way in addition. But my concern is with safety and traffic. I drive through this circle. I ride my bike through the area daily. I'm the one that spoke about all the issues with biking in Fairfield. I've had accidents that way. And I just want to point out, like 3 times in the last month, I have seen either really close near misses in that circle area. Today, for example, I was coming back and somebody had gone to do an illegal U-turn around the small triangle at Post Road, right at the exit of that they're talking about having everyone go out of. They were blocking traffic both ways, decided they wanted to change direction. Another time, just last week, I saw someone pulling out of the Circle Diner and Hotel area and make an illegal left turn. They were coming into oncoming traffic. About a month ago, I was going to Stop and Shop, right, doing the little curve around the circle to head over there from Riverside. And the something was going on I-95 yet again. Everything was backed up on the road. Somebody got impatient because it was all the way backed up, and they just decided to pull over into the wrong way traffic and barreled straight through, narrowly missing me. I had to pull over and narrowly missing a woman with her child in her car coming around the circle the other way. So people do get impatient, and I honestly don't see how the math works out to have over 100 cars coming out at peak hour. If you have 3 minutes a car, that's over 300 minutes. That's like 5 hours. I don't understand how you have 5 hours of traffic getting out in an hour. I also don't see, if you have over 100 cars lined up end to end, that's nearly a third of a mile of cars. You don't have a third of a mile to back up in that property, a string of cars every morning trying to get out. And then you add in, you've got school buses making stops in there, and on and on. It was pointed out with delivery people. It's just, I've been here 30 years and they have not figured out that area yet, and they're still working on it, and it's still unsafe. I just really want you to put your minds to creating a safe environment for bikers, pedestrians, as well as drivers and everyone in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Temperman?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I would like to comment first on something that I witnessed today and during
Address, please. Can I just have your address, please?
Oh, Yuri Tepperman, 64 Shoreham Village Drive. I live within 200 feet from the development. I would like to comment on something that I witnessed, and this is might address some issues that people have with not being heard. I really do not understand why some commissioners trying to resolve the issues that were flagged on behalf of the applicant. I believe that a lot of issues are flagged, and I agree with a lot of people who spoke today about these issues. But what I believe what should have happened was, if there are issues that possibly cannot be resolved, the applicant should be asked to resolve them. This should not be approved conditionally. This is not an issue to find out what conditions with what conditions it could be approved. This is not this. This is essentially, this is, I don't know if it is your job to resolve the issues and then just to put it as a condition. I believe that applicants should be resolving conditions that they create. And if you don't have enough information, or if some studies were not submitted, or if some studies were submitted with erroneous information, they should be asked to resubmit them, or this application should be denied. Because I don't know how it can be resolved. But this is not like, I saw commissioners trying to lead some experts towards finding a solution. This is for applicants to find a solution if it can be found. Right now, the applicants cannot be offering solution. So because of that, I believe that application should be denied as it is. And then they can resubmit with new solutions, new studies. But I really do not understand why this commission takes upon itself to almost like to take a side with an applicant to resolve their issues and come up with conditions that can be rolled into conditional approval. So while I do, appreciate your work, but this is something that I kind of don't see this. I don't understand your role because, in a sense, in other jurisdictions, I saw when something is like this, undercooked and not resolved, it can be denied and asked to be resolved and then resubmitted. So this is why people might feel that they're not being heard because the experts present their opinions and people present their opinions and none of it being incorporated. But then, you guys can come up with conditional approval based on some erroneous information. It will be afterwards too late to fix it. Or it is impossible to fix it. I believe that everyone knows that this development is too big. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in character. It doesn't fit in size, in scale, and it is not safe. This is not something new or not something that everyone is completely oblivious of. But this is like, I observed this, and this is like, people feel that they are not being heard because of this. So please, I don't know your charter. I don't know how to quote it. I don't know, but if you do act in public interest, or if you at least intend to act in public interest, so far, this commission has been failing, I believe, by approving mixed use, and that didn't work. The appeasement of bullies, the appeasement doesn't work. You guys approved mixed use development. The developer went ahead and filed 830G. It just doesn't work. So that's pretty much all my comment. And I do hope that whatever this commission decides, that if it goes against public interest, that it is being held to account because you are public officials. That's my belief and my hope. But I do also hope that you make the right decision because you should make decision in public interest, not in the interest of developer. And it is not your job to resolve their problems and failures of their submission for them. Thank you.
I'll address that. I don't think I should but again, this is a disconnect, I think, between maybe what the neighbors are expecting and what the law is. The law demands or mandates the commission find reasonable accommodations where it can to address issues that are raised. So to the extent that means anything, so be it. But again, this is a disconnect between, I think, what the public's expectation is and what our roles are, because it's just a statutory requirement for us to at least consider it. And that's what we're doing.
But I'm sorry, but if you have not enough information.
Sir,
Yeah.
It's not your time anymore.
Okay.
Said
Okay,
your
thank you.
point, that's all.
We have Wendy Lean followed by Jen Gaynor.
Thank you. Ms. Lean?
Hello, Wendy Leon. I live at Riverside, on 429 Riverside Drive. You can hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So I totally appreciate your hard work. I can see it. I've been attending all of these remotely and I appreciate all of your time. But I do admit that I don't feel heard And that's probably because the previous application was not in an 830G, and it was my understanding that that was a special permit which required the TPC to weigh the neighbor's concern against the public good of the project. And 700 signed the petition against it. Hard-earned money was spent to hire Attorney Green. Expert consultants were also hired. So I just don't understand how the facts didn't force this monstrosity of a project to be scaled down. Early on, supposedly the applicant gave out flyers to the surrounding neighborhood, but for the record, I want to note, I never received one, and I don't believe any of my neighbors did either. So maybe they didn't think Riverside Drive residents mattered, but we will severely be impacted. So for example, if it takes 3 minutes to take a left-hand turn, we've been talking about that a lot, people might go right and then loop around Riverside Drive instead. Well, our street has always been a cut through from Home Depot, people avoiding the rotary. Now it's just going to get worse. And this is going to create significant dangers. I have been here for 25 years. Once I heard a large truck going too fast in front of my house. Bam, it ended up crashing and destroying my neighbor's porch. My husband's car was parked in front of my home. It was totaled after a car lost control going too fast around the curve. It's a curvy street. It creates dangers. Tonight I went with my son to our dentist at 320 Post Road. So I went down Turney, I turned right onto Post, that's right at that Post Road entrance to the circle where the stop sign is there. And all of a sudden I look and there's a bicycle right on the left of my car. And then, so I had a car on my right, I had a bicycle on my left, and then somebody was pulling out of the diner, and it was just like, I was like, this is just crazy, you know? And so it's just going to get more and more dangerous. And it's very stressful because I too have a 17-year-old new driver in the home. Now, when I left the dentist with my son, I get to the stop sign there at the end of Kings Highway, and you have to really tilt back far to the left. You got to twist your spine to see what's coming down the street. So I totally disagree with the applicant saying that, oh, you have a good sign of light, you know, good line of sight everywhere, because you can't see good there. You have to crank your neck back. And then that's also the area where the people will be pulling left out of there right in front of you. So you got another, you know, you're going to have these people sitting there for 3 minutes and then trying to cut through, and, you know, it's just going to be a disaster. So to conclude, I just think this is such a significant safety issue based on the size of this project. And I really hope that I hope it gets turned down. And I agree with what was just said previously, that I don't see it being your job to find the solutions. It's the applicant's job to find the solutions. And I hope that it just gets turned down the way it is currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Gaynor,
Yes. Jen Gaynor?
Ms. Gaynor?
Yes, hi. Thank you. My name's Jennifer Gaynor. I'm at 461 Riverside Drive. I will be pretty quick here. I've heard multiple times tonight that no one's really happy with this project, from all different sides and all parties. What I sort of took offense to at the beginning of the meeting, frankly, is the applicant admitting that the reason why this was proposed was basically to put pressure on the opposition and the residents who were potentially appealing the first project. And I think that, you know, this project sets a new precedent. It was cited that it's far larger than anything else the commission has approved in the past. And so not only does it set a precedent with size, but tactic. The tactic of proposing an egregious project under an 830G just to put pressure to make it look like the previous project wasn't that bad, is just appalling to me. This really affects lives. It affects our neighborhoods. And to be manipulated by that, like that through this process, it just, you know, I kind of go back to, if no one thinks this feels right, it probably isn't. So I thank you like everyone else did for all the hard work you guys put in. But I think it feels like you have what you need through safety and environmental potential concerns to at least dig into that more and get satisfactory solutions from this applicant if you're inclined to push this forward. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member of the public joining remotely or by phone wish to be heard in this application? If you're joining by phone, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Any member of the public in person, remotely, or by phone wish to be heard in this application? All right, not hearing anybody, I'll close the public comment portion of this application. All right, Mike, I think we've gone long enough tonight. How much time do you need for rebuttal?
Well, I think two different questions. How much time do I need and how much time will it take? I think I can do a presentation in under 10 minutes. Absent
Questions on us,
interruption,
I got it, yeah,
I
yeah.
suspect that there'll be questions.
Well,
So
one thing I would ask is, and I don't, this will very well upset the record in a lot of ways, but I'll say it anyways. I think between the commission and the public asking about the additional information with right turns out and how that affects the downstream, so to speak, if everything goes to the west driveway. I would have you guys look, this is in your discretion. I don't, this is your application. I would have you guys look at that, see if there's a response to it. And if it does lead to any somewhat changes, for whatever reason, I would, that's new information, then I would open up public comment subject to that only. So I would like you guys to look at that, get back to us on what you think. And I don't know what your answer is going to be, but if it leads to subsequent evidence, a new plan or whatever, don't hesitate to bring it to us if you think, if that's the way to handle it, because I'll just reopen the record for public comment for that limited portion and then just go from there. So I put that out there for food for thought. All right. Anything else?
sorry, procedurally, will this be next Tuesday?
Yes. We need this to be finished because I think the 21st is when the decision needs to be made. That is a Saturday. The hope would be that you would come on the 10th. And there's no reason for you, well, we'll see, but depending on what I just said, I may have just opened a Pandora's box, but we'll see. Come on the 10th, hopefully finish on the 10th. At worst, if something happens, we'll do what we did, Attorney Fallon with Fairfield Place. And we'll worry about that later as to what that means, as far as if I have to reopen the record. We'll go the extra day and we'll get it in by the 21st. The hope would be, or plan at this point is close on the 10th, vote on the 17th. Potentially. Okay? Thank you. All right. I will close public comment. Well, public comment is closed on this application. The hearing remains open. I'll adjourn this hearing for next week and I'll close the meeting tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.